Chapter 36:05. Lin Feng quickly rushed out. The hell devil bat's blood essence made him want it. The blood essence of these powerful creatures was more useful than the most precious treasures to improve one's cultivation. Therefore, Lin Feng couldn't wait to snatch a few drops of hell devil bat's blood essence to further improve his combat strength. However, the hell devil bat's blood essence wasn't that much. When a large number of cultivators rushed over, it naturally became a situation where there were too many monks and too little gruel. Many cultivators fought for a drop of hell devil bat's blood essence. Blood splattered everywhere. It was extremely tragic. Cultivators who got along well with each other would fight to the death for a drop of blood essence. The world of cultivators had always been so cruel. This was a bloody world. For the sake of benefits, many cultivators would do anything. Lin Feng locked onto a drop of blood essence and directly took it. Kid die. Immediately, more than a dozen cultivators surrounded Lin Feng, wanting to kill him. Reckless. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. He directly used the Tao of space and imprisoned more than a dozen cultivators. Then he waved his right hand. Swoosh! A dazzling sword chi flew out and swept across the void. The sword chi was dazzling and powerful. A light hit, as if it had the power to shatter heaven and earth. Puff, puff, puff. The sound of tearing could be heard one after another. One cultivator's body was directly torn apart. One cultivator after another was killed. After killing more than a dozen cultivators, Lin Feng was about to collect other hell devil bat's blood essence. Suddenly, Lin Feng saw that darkness swept over. When the hell devil bat appeared before, darkness also covered heaven and earth. After the hell devil bat escaped, some light was restored. However, the darkness that appeared in the distance now was different from when the hell devil bat appeared. The hell devil bat used its huge body to cover the mountain where many cultivators were originally. So, when the hell devil bat appeared, it was just that the area where the mountain was located became very dark. The rest of the place was still glowing, but now it was a different situation. Endless darkness swept in from all directions. The darkness nibbled away at the world bit by bit. The flowers, the trees, the swamps, the distant mountain peaks. Everything was devoured by the darkness. It was extremely strange. It was as if something terrifying was hiding in the darkness and was rapidly approaching everyone. No one should enter the land of death. This was the summary of the experiences of countless experts, especially when it was nighttime. Terrifying things would always happen in the land of death. And those terrifying things were enough to bury countless cultivators. Let's go, let's go. Immeasurable Taoist sense of danger was even stronger than Lin Feng's. He rushed to Lin Feng's side and shouted in a low voice. Lin Feng nodded and hurriedly rushed towards the mountain peak with Taoist Wu Liang. The mountain peak towered between heaven and earth. Lin Feng felt that this place was a place of protection. When darkness descends, one should not leave the mountain at will. Once he left, the consequences would be unimaginable. Look, what's that? Darkness is devouring heaven and earth. This is a great omen. Let's leave quickly. Go to the mountain peak. This mountain peak has the power of divinity. It should be able to protect us. Many cultivators flew towards the mountain peak in a panic, but everyone underestimated the speed of the darkness attack. Endless darkness enveloped heaven and earth. It was simply too fast. The swamp of fate was quickly being devoured by the darkness, and the speed of those fleeing cultivators could not be compared to the speed of the darkness devouring heaven and earth. Cultivators were constantly being devoured by the darkness. No, I can't accept this. I don't want to die. Many cultivators screamed in horror. They were still trying their best to escape, unwilling to be devoured by the darkness. As long as there was a glimmer of hope, 9 would not give up. However, those cultivators were still unable to escape back to the mountain peak. They were shrouded in darkness. Without any sound, they had already fallen into the darkness. What does the darkness represent? What terrifying thing is in the darkness? Lin Feng was terrified. He increased his speed and rushed towards the mountain peak. In the end, Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist successfully escaped back to the mountain peak. The cultivators who were closer to the mountain peak also successfully escaped back. The cultivators on the mountain peak were glad that they did not go out just now. If they went out, they might have already died in the darkness. And at this time, the darkness had already swept over. Divine light flowed out from the mountain peak. At the peak of the mountain peak, an ancient temple appeared in front of them. From the temple, Tao sounds could be heard. Divine light intertwined and enveloped the mountain peak, blocking the corrosion of the darkness. "Save me," a cultivator rushed over, his hand already reaching into the divine light. No one was willing to save him. They were all running towards the mountain peak. Crack! A hand reached over. It grabbed the cultivator's hand. Lin Feng made a move. Because the person who asked for help was a rock cultivator. It was probably a cultivator from the Demon Alliance. Conveniently, he helped, saving a life. Lin Feng was very willing to do such a thing, because Lin Feng believed in one sentence, the cycle of karma, and good people would be rewarded. Lin Feng pulled the cultivator back from the darkness. However, soon, Lin Feng's face revealed a horrified expression, because the only thing he managed to pull back was an intact arm. The rest of the body, they had all turned into bones with traces of blood. What eat his flesh and blood? Lin Feng was horrified and quickly retreated. The darkness was too terrifying. It was full of the unknown, and it was terrifying. Lin Feng had been to several places of death. Every place of death was incomparably dangerous. However, all the places of death didn't seem to be as dangerous as the swamp of fate in front of him. This was the place where the master of fate fell. It was indeed an extremely dangerous place. Boom! The darkness began to attack the light barrier that enveloped the mountain peak. The entire light barrier began to shake violently. Many people were so scared that their bodies trembled when they saw this scene, and their faces were as pale as paper. The darkness was too terrifying. If the defensive light shield of the mountain peak was broken, then all of them would be dead. Everyone was well aware of this. No one wanted to die. Everyone wanted to live. Buzz. Right at this moment, a violent fluctuation came from the temple above. Everyone was alarmed, and they all looked towards the temple. That temple wasn't a real temple. It looked like a temple that was formed by Tao runes. Now, the door of the temple opened. Chapter 3606. Dozens of Taoists had the demeanor of immortals. Each of them held an immortal sword. After they flew out of the temple, they entered the darkness. No one could see their figures again. Only the sound of collision could be heard coming from the darkness. It was like the sound of peerless divine weapons colliding. There really are some terrifying existences in the darkness that are fighting with those Taoists. It's a pity that my eye of origin is injured. Otherwise, I would be able to see what the things in the darkness are. Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath and say, Taoist Wu Liang said, "It's best not to look. The erosion of darkness is a terrifying thing that has never been recorded in the Taoist scriptures. If you see something that you shouldn't see, I'm afraid you'll be killed." Lin Feng's heart trembled slightly. Taoist Wu Liang's words weren't alarmist words. It was his experience. It was indeed the same as what Taoist Wu Liang said. It was best not to look at something that one shouldn't see. Otherwise, it wouldn't end well. Everyone on the mountain peak was in a state of panic. They didn't know if the Taoists who rushed out of the temple could resist the terrifying existence in the darkness. Right now, everyone could only hope that those Taoists would show their might. They could resist the terrifying existence in the darkness. If those Taoists couldn't resist it either, when the time came, perhaps all of them would die here. Usually, time seemed to pass very quickly. A day passed in the blink of an eye. However, on this night, everyone felt as if every second was like a year. Everyone hoped that time could pass faster. Let's go to the peak of the mountain and take a look at the temple, Taoist Wu Liang said. Lin Feng nodded and climbed up the mountain with Taoist Wu Liang. Many cultivators had the same thoughts as Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang. They all headed towards the peak of the mountain. In the end, these people arrived at the peak of the mountain. However, an invisible force sealed off the void world. Lin Feng and the others couldn't get close to the temple at all. They were blocked outside by that invisible force. That temple doesn't seem to be a manifestation of the Tao, rhymes. It's a real temple. When Lin Feng saw the temple up close, he couldn't help but reveal an extremely shocked expression. That divine temple was extraordinary. It was surrounded by endless divine light, endless sounds of Tao interweaved above the temple. When one listened carefully, they could not hear anything. It was too strange. It really does look real. Immeasurable Taoists said. There were still some differences between the temple formed by the Tao aura and the real temple. This was the difference between reality and illusion. As for this temple, it was somewhere between reality and illusion. This affected Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang's judgment. They felt that the temple was real, but because they couldn't get close to the temple, therefore, there was no way to confirm this point. Lin Feng tried to use the Tao of space. When the Tao of space was activated, Lin Feng was surprised when he realized that the invisible and intangible strength around the temple was much less oppressive than before. This made Lin Feng's face light up with joy. Huh, you can get close to the temple now. Immeasurable Taoist said in shock. Lin Feng said, I can give it a try. Wait for me here. I'll try to see if I can get close to the temple. If you find something good, you must remember to share it with your best friend. Immeasurable Taoist reminded. Lin Feng couldn't help but roll his eyes. The best friend that Immeasurable Taoist was referring to was naturally him. This fellow really never forgot to reap some benefits. Who is that kid? His means are actually so extraordinary. I'm not sure. I've never seen him before. He seems to be a human cultivator. Could he be a member of the 3 human overlords of the Immortal Gods Alliance? Some cultivators started discussing in hushed voices. No, that kid is Lin Feng. Someone said, revealing Lin Feng's identity. What? He's Lin Feng of the 9 provinces world. Many cultivators couldn't help but exclaim. The name Lin Feng was very familiar. It could even be said that they had heard of him before. And now, Lin Feng had actually appeared in front of them. Rumor has it that Lin Feng is with that wicked Taoist. Look at that Taoist over there. I just saw that kid with that Taoist. So, that kid might really be Lin Feng. A cultivator said. That kid should be killed. That damn Taoist should be cut into pieces. The cultivators of the Sacred War Alliance were filled with killing intent. Whether it was Lin Feng or Immeasurable Taoist, they were all on their must-kill list. The cultivators of the Immortal Gods Alliance and the Demon Alliance looked at Lin Feng and Immeasurable Taoist with great interest. This pair, they had also heard of it. Now, they actually saw the real deal. However, The cultivators of the Sacred War Alliance knew how terrifying Lin Feng and immeasurable Taoist were. Even though they couldn't wait to kill Lin Feng, an immeasurable Taoist, they endured it and didn't make a move. At this moment, Lin Feng's mind was focused on how to get close to the temple. So, he didn't hear the discussions of the cultivators in the distance at all. As Lin Feng continued to get closer to the temple, the power exerted on Lin Feng's body also became more and more terrifying. That strength could topple mountains and overturn seas. It wanted to kill Lin Feng. After feeling that terrifying power, Lin Feng couldn't help but change his expression. That invisible power was really too terrifying. It indeed had the power to kill him. However, Lin Feng wasn't without a way to deal with it. The Tao of Space seemed to be able to play an extremely crucial role at this time. With Lin Feng as the center, the surrounding void began to distort. Lin Feng operated the Tao of Space, causing the space within a 1-meter radius to distort. If one looked carefully, they would be able to see that there were overlapping spatial faults in that distorted space. That was actually not a spatial fault, but a folding mark formed when different spaces were folded together. When that invisible and terrifying power enveloped him, all the power was devoured by the folded space around Lin Feng. The power of those folded spaces was extraordinary, a power that could devour everything. The Tao of Space was really an extremely heaven-defying great Tao. It was no wonder that the 9 space gods could stand out among the many titled gods. They could be compared to the 9 demon masters, the 9 human emperors, and other powerhouses. The main reason was that the power of the Tao of Space was so powerful that it was shocking. Relying on the wonders of the Tao of Space, Lin Feng was constantly approaching the temple. This person is too terrifying. The cultivators of the myriad races couldn't help but reveal extremely shocked expressions. They couldn't even take a step closer to the temple, but Lin Feng had managed to neutralize the terrifying strength around the shrine. He was getting closer and closer. 2 hours later, Lin Feng finally arrived at the entrance of the temple. Chapter 36:07. The inside of the temple was surrounded by divine light. This was a place full of holiness. The temple was divided into several courtyards. In the first courtyard, Lin Feng saw many prayer mats. This was a Taoist temple. Those prayer mats should be where the cultivators sat and listened to the Tao. In the past, someone gave a sermon here. If one listened carefully, they could vaguely hear some Tao sounds shaking between heaven and earth. The Tao sounds lingered in the air. This place seemed to be the birthplace of the great Tao. There was a Taoist temple in the courtyard. There was also a prayer mat on the Taoist temple. Lin Feng guessed that the expert who taught the Tao back then should have been sitting on the prayer mat. Facing these disciples, he taught them what he had learned in his life. This is a Taoist temple. Lin Feng muttered to himself. The temple was very special. Its architectural style was very similar to a Taoist temple. Lin Feng had never seen a real Taoist temple because Taoism had always been very mysterious. However, Lin Feng had heard a lot about Taoism from Taoist Wuliang. This included the architectural features of Taoism, which were very similar to the temple in front of him. Lin Feng used this as a basis. He determined that this was a Taoist temple. Lin Feng walked towards the Taoist temple. Suddenly, he saw a man appear on the Taoist temple. The man's back was facing him. He was wearing a Taoist robe. His body was surrounded by immortal qi, like a banished immortal. Is it the Taoist master of the past? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. This Taoist temple was too extraordinary. It could even resist the dark erosion of the land of death. It was hard to imagine. At the peak of the past, how amazing would this Taoist temple be? Now, the sound of heaven and earth was shaking in this Taoist temple. that sound of heaven, and earth made Lin Feng feel very comfortable. He felt as if all the pores on his body were open, greedily absorbing the spiritual energy between heaven and earth. Lin Feng wanted to go up to the Taoist temple and see what kind of shocking figure the Taoist master was. However, when Lin Feng reached the Tao platform, the mysterious existence disappeared without a trace. Lin Feng frowned. That Tao Lord just now wasn't his real body, and it seemed to be just a brand left behind in the past. Lin Feng walked towards the depths and arrived at the first level of the temple. In the first layer of the temple, there was a statue of the giant miracle god. However, it was clear that this was not the true chief god's position. Taoism was particular about 3 temples, 6 pavilions, and 9 halls. In other words, if Taoism built a temple, it would build 3 layers of temples. The first and second layers of temples would not worship the main god. Instead, it was the auxiliary deity position. These auxiliary gods were the subordinates of the sovereign. They were built to protect the sovereign. The true sovereign position was located within the 3rd level of the temple. If Taoists built attics, they would build 6 layers of attics. Every level of the attic would also consecrate a deity position. The chief god's position was enshrined in the 6th level of the attic. There was another type of architecture in Taoism, which was called the 9 halls. Level 1 to 8 were auxiliary deity statues. Level 9 was dedicated to the chief god's position. However, Taoism had always felt that the number 9 was unknown. Therefore, the 9 halls were relatively rare. 3 temples were the most common. This was because the Tao Te Ching of Taoism recorded that 1 gave birth to 2, 2 gave birth to 3, and 3 gave birth to all things. The word 3 had a special status in Taoism. It was regarded as the foundation of all things by Taoism. Therefore, usually Taoist temples were built in 3 layers. There were also 6-story Taoist temples, but they were also extremely rare. The unknown Taoist temple in front of him was a 3-story Taoist temple. Lin Feng carefully checked every part of the first layer of the temple. He searched for some treasures that might appear in this temple. However, after searching for a while, Lin Feng didn't find anything. This made Lin Feng a little disappointed. However, there were still 2 more layers of temples behind. There might be precious things in the temples behind. Lin Feng passed through the first layer of the temple. He came to the second courtyard. That is, Lin Feng was shocked. In the second courtyard, he saw an ancient tree. The ancient tree wasn't particularly tall. It was about 2 meters tall. Although it wasn't tall, its branches and leaves were lush. Moreover, the branches were strong and strong. It was like the body of a dragon. There was a kind of shocking beauty. The ancient tree was full of fragrant petals. Those petals actually had 4 colors. These 4 colors were white, gold, red, and purple. 4 colored flowers? Lin Feng was very surprised. This was the first time he had seen this kind of 4-colored flower. Before this, he had never heard of this kind of 4-colored flower. Sometimes he couldn't help but sigh at the extraordinary power of the master of creation. He could actually create such an ancient tree that could bear 4 different kinds of flowers. When Lin Feng approached the ancient tree, suddenly, in his mind, the sound of the Tao echoed, pointing directly at his Tao heart. Lin Feng felt as if he was about to enter a state of enlightenment. This ancient tree can help cultivators comprehend the Tao. Why is it so similar to the effect of the Bodhi tree of Buddhism? Lin Feng couldn't help but be very surprised. To be precise, the effect of this ancient tree was even more amazing than the Bodhi tree. In the past, Lin Feng had seen the Bodhi tree and obtained the Bodhi seed. If he wanted to gain enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, he would need a certain amount of time to feel the aura of the Bodhi tree. Then, with the help of the Bodhi tree, he would enter a state of enlightenment. But now, the situation was completely different. When Lin Feng came to the side of the ancient tree, he didn't sit cross-legged to comprehend the Tao. But this ancient tree made Lin Feng feel as if he could comprehend the Tao at any time. On this point, it was even more extraordinary than the Bodhi tree. It was even more shocking and moving. This is the crepe myrtle tree, the sacred tree of Taoism. The voice of the demon lord resounded in Lin Feng's mind. What? This is the legendary crepe myrtle tree? Lin Feng's face suddenly revealed an extremely shocked expression. Taoism was too mysterious. There were many things about Taoism that the outside world didn't have much information about. This was because Taoism kept a tight lid on information. Even the classic of mountains and seas didn't record much about Taoism. Of course, the current classic of mountains and seas had lost a lot of content. Perhaps the original version recorded Taoism, but that content was lost later on. But no matter what the reason was, Taoism was filled with countless secrets to the cultivators of the outside world. The reason why Lin Feng knew that the sacred tree of Taoism was the crepe myrtle tree was because he heard Taoist Wu Liang mention it by chance. But Taoist Wu Liang himself wasn't a real Taoist. This was because Taoism had already cleared the mountain-moving Taoist lineage out of Taoism. So Taoist Wu Liang had never seen the crepe myrtle tree. Therefore, Lin Feng's understanding of the crepe myrtle tree was limited. Lin Feng didn't know what the crepe myrtle tree looked like before. But now, chapter 3608, the crepe myrtle tree was surrounded by holy light. It was a holy light formed by 4 different colors intertwining together. For different colors of light, for different colors of flowers illuminated the area. The holy light formed by the intertwining of the holy light gave off a magnificent feeling. Crepe myrtle trees are very rare. According to Taoist Wu Liang, there are probably less than 10 crepe myrtle trees left in this world. To think that one is still alive here. How lucky! I wonder if it is possible to transplant this crepe myrtle tree away? Lin Feng's mind immediately became active. The crepe myrtle tree was an extraordinary ancient tree. If it could be transplanted into time and space, it would be very useful to him in the future. Lin Feng was very clear about this. Transplanting this ancient tree is not easy, said the demon lord. No matter how difficult it was, Lin Feng intended to give it a try. He walked towards the crepe myrtle tree. However, the crepe myrtle tree swept out a 4-colored holy light and sent Lin Feng flying. The crepe myrtle tree was too extraordinary. The 4-colored holy light was very powerful. Lin Feng was blocked outside, unable to get close to the crepe myrtle tree. Lin Feng could not help but frown. Transplanting the crepe myrtle tree? It would seem that this was a very difficult task. The demon lord said, "If you want to take the crepe myrtle tree, you can't do it by force. You need to find a suitable method." Lin Feng nodded. It was indeed as the demon lord had said. Taking the crepe myrtle tree could not be done by force. What is the origin of the crepe myrtle tree? Lin Feng asked. The only thing he knew was that the crepe myrtle tree was a sacred tree of Taoism. He did not know anything else. The demon lord explained. The origin of the crepe myrtle tree can be traced back to the origin of Taoism. In the Taoism's immortal genealogy, the highest deity is the 3 pure ones. You should know about this. Lin Feng nodded. The 3 pure ones referred to the 3 sacred realms where the gods resided: the Jade pure sacred realm, the Shang pure true realm, and the Tai Ching immortal realm, collectively known as the 3 pure realms. It also referred to the 3 supreme gods of Taoism who resided in the realms: the Jade pure emperor, the heavenly lord Yuanshi, the heavenly lord Lingbao, and the heavenly lord Daod. Rumor had it that the three pure ones were the incarnations of Pangu the Immortal. This was where the legend of Pangu's three pure ones came from. The demon lord continued, "The three pure ones have four immortal gods assisting them, and their status is second only to the three pure ones. They are the Jade Emperor, the Great Emperor of the North Pole, the Heavenly Emperor, and the Earth Empress. These four are known as the Four Imperials. The leader of the Four Imperials is the Jade Emperor, followed by the Great Emperor of the North Pole. The Great Emperor of the North Pole sat at the center of the sky and assisted the Jade Emperor in controlling natural phenomena such as the heavens, the earth, the sun, the moon, the stars, and the four seasons. During the era of titled gods, he was extremely revered. However, the era of titled gods has ended. The three pure ones and the four imperials have become history, drowned out by the river of time. Even now, rumors about them are almost impossible to find. Legend has it that the crepe myrtle flower is the incarnation of the Great Emperor of the North Pole. It can avoid disasters. The Great Emperor of the North Pole possessed a crepe myrtle flower. Taoism believes that the crepe myrtle flower is the celestial purple star that descended from the heavens, so the crepe myrtle tree is revered as the holy tree by Taoism. The crepe myrtle tree is the incarnation of Emperor Crepe Myrtle. Why does it sound so mysterious? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter. These rumors were really hard to believe. The demon lord said, "This is a mythical story. Just take it as a joke." Of course, even if the crepe myrtle tree is not the incarnation of the Great Emperor of the North Pole, it definitely has an inseparable relationship with the Great Emperor of the North Pole. On this point, Lin Feng agreed very much. Could it be an ancient tree nurtured by Great Emperor Polestar in the past? Lin Feng asked. The demon lord said, "That is indeed a possibility. How should I transplant the crepe myrtle tree into my time and space?" Demon lord, do you have any ideas? Lin Feng asked. I have a meditation mantra passed down by the Great Emperor of the North Pole of the North Pole. It is used to help cultivators comprehend the Tao. Now, I will pass it to you. You can try comprehending it and see if you can use it to resonate with the crepe myrtle tree. The demon lord said. Lin Feng was shocked. The demon lord actually had a technique passed down by the Great Emperor of the North Pole of the North Pole of the North Pole. The demon lord was becoming more and more mysterious by the day. At that moment, Lin Feng felt a mysterious mantra appear in his mind. This mantra was the meditation mantra that the demon lord had passed down to Lin Feng. The spirit does not wander. The spirit does not leak. The qi does not dissipate. The spirit grows. The 5 elements and 4 symbols enter the central palace. There is no need to worry that the golden core will not form. There is a true God inside and a response outside. The vision is filled with empty flowers and white snow. The sun comes to return to the sea, and the moon appears in the middle. He hurriedly used his martial arts. Jin Feng looked into the distance. He breathed and activated the mysterious gate fire. The blue sky split open the primordial chaos. The yellow river flowed in reverse to Kunlun. The 9 apertures and 3 gates were penetrated. It turned into nectar and swallowed into the stomach. It was hard to explain. At this point, one had to be careful and take a bath according to the season. The second grade yin and yang objects were the same, and the 2 were the internal and external fire talismans. When the spiritual medicine was obtained for a while, it would take 10 months to warm it. It would take 3 years for it to mature. 3 by 3 were like 9 sides of the pill. When the pill grew and whistled out of the mountain, it was obvious that he had done meritorious deeds. God sent down a purple letter and ordered me to fly to the sky. The descendants followed this diligent cultivation and became the guests of the 3 pure ones. Lin Feng sat cross-legged. while silently reciting the contents of the meditation mantra, while trying to sense the crepe myrtle tree. As time passed, gradually, Lin Feng vaguely seemed to see a hazy world. In that hazy world, there was an ancient tree. That ancient tree was not tall, but it was extremely extraordinary. It lingered in the holy light, and Tao sounds interweaved. When he saw that holy tree, Lin Feng was shocked. That holy tree was the crepe myrtle tree. Under the crepe myrtle tree, suddenly a man appeared. He was wearing a starry robe. He looked very young and extremely handsome. He was like the ruler of heaven and earth. When he appeared, the branches of the crepe myrtle tree swayed gently. The holy light that surged out of the crepe myrtle tree also flew towards this man. The holy light lingered around this man. This man looked so holy, so otherworldly. Oh my God, could this person be the legendary North Pole Emperor Ziwei? When he saw the man under the crepe myrtle tree, Lin Feng's face immediately revealed an extremely shocked expression. The North Pole Emperor Ziwei was such a terrifying existence. He was an expert who assisted the three Pure Ones back then, one of the rulers of heaven and earth in the era of titled gods. Now, he actually appeared in front of him. At this moment, the North Pole Emperor Ziwei looked at Lin Feng. Two people, separated by endless years, crossed the torrent of time. Their gazes met. Eternal life. Never give up. The North Pole Emperor Ziwei looked at Lin Feng and said. Lin Feng was shocked. Chapter 36:09. The great emperor of the North Pole Pole Star sat cross-legged. He sat under the crepe myrtle tree, as if he had merged with the crepe myrtle trees. He seemed to have transformed into the crepe myrtle tree, as if he had become the only thing in this world. Lin Feng looked at the great emperor of the North Pole Pole Star, and a thoughtful expression appeared on his face. Then, Lin Feng also sat cross-legged. He began to comprehend the aura of the great emperor of the North Pole Pole Star and the aura of the crepe myrtle tree. This was a rather interesting scene, because Lin Feng was originally in a state of epiphany. This world was a world that appeared when he was in an epiphany. It was a kind of spiritual world. And Lin Feng, who appeared in the spiritual world, he actually began to try to have an epiphany again. This kind of double epiphany was very rare, but now Lin Feng encountered such a situation. Of course, this would be extremely useful for Lin Feng's cultivation. The state of double epiphany might allow Lin Feng's spiritual world to sense some more extraordinary content. As time passed, Lin Feng gradually felt as if he had become a part of this world. Lin Feng felt as if he had become a branch. He had become a branch of the crepe myrtle tree. This was a very strange feeling. After turning into a branch, Lin Feng could even feel the heartbeat of the crepe myrtle tree. Any life, there would be a heartbeat. Or it could be said that this was the pulsation of life. The crepe myrtle tree was no exception. Eternal life. Never give up. The voice of the great emperor of the North Pole Pole Star once again resounded in Lin Feng's mind. When Lin Feng heard the words, Great Emperor of the North Pole Pole Star, a thoughtful expression appeared on his face. What was the great emperor of the North Pole Pole Star trying to tell him? Eternal life meant that life would not end here. This explanation seemed a little far-fetched. Could it be that he was telling him? Did it mean that the living beings in the world would not die out? If it was explained this way, it seemed more reasonable. Never give up was easier to understand. Never give up. This was the meaning of never giving up. Was the great emperor of the North Pole of Ziwei trying to tell him that even if something that seemed enough to make one despair would happen between heaven and earth, it would still be possible? However, the living beings of the world were not so easily destroyed. We must never give up hope of survival. When these thoughts appeared in Lin Feng's mind, Lin Feng immediately felt that there was a mysterious power in his body, and that mysterious power could help him communicate with the crepe myrtle tree. Follow me. I will let the splendor of the crepe myrtle tree reappear in the world. Lin Feng said. The crepe myrtle tree swayed, as if responding to Lin Feng. You agreed? Lin Feng asked. The crepe myrtle tree shook again. Lin Feng's face lit up with joy. Whoosh! Light flashed. Lin Feng's divine sense returned. He opened his eyes and looked at the crepe myrtle tree in the courtyard. Enter my time and space. Only by following me will you be able to fully display your value. Lin Feng said. Then he released a powerful supernatural power and directly enveloped the crepe myrtle tree. The sacred light of the crepe myrtle tree was restrained. Then it rose from the ground. The crepe myrtle tree had acknowledged Lin Feng. It did not resist. If it did not acknowledge Lin Feng would not have any hope of collecting the crepe myrtle tree. Seeing the crepe myrtle tree fly into the air, Lin Feng's face suddenly lit up with joy. The crepe myrtle tree, the sacred tree of Taoism, was finally collected by him. It was really too exciting. Lin Feng kept the crepe myrtle tree in the time and space. In the time and space, there was the 5-colored celestial soil. After the crepe myrtle tree entered the time and space, it took root in the 5-colored celestial soil. Lin Feng's face lit up with a smile. Entering this Taoist temple this time, he actually collected the sacred tree of Taoism, the crepe myrtle tree. It was really a great opportunity. He continued to walk inside. Lin Feng came to the second temple. There was also a statue of a god enshrined in this temple. This statue was in the shape of a ferocious beast. This ferocious beast was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. It was unknown what kind of beast it was. Lin Feng was very surprised. Could it be that this ferocious beast was even more powerful than the mighty miracle god worshipped outside? Is the statue of Great Emperor Polestar in the 3rd layer of the Taoist temple? Lin Feng could not help but mutter to himself. He felt that there might be such a possibility, because the crepe myrtle tree had appeared here. Of course, the appearance of the crepe myrtle tree here might have nothing to do with Great Emperor Ziwei. Everything was just a coincidence. Before entering the 3rd courtyard, Lin Feng checked the 2nd temple carefully to see if there was anything good left behind. But after a careful inspection, he found nothing. The situation was exactly the same as in the 1st temple. Lin Feng passed through the 2nd temple and came to the 3rd courtyard. As soon as he arrived, he saw a man standing in the middle of the courtyard. Was this not the man he saw when he first entered the temple? His back was facing Lin Feng, so he could not see the man's appearance clearly. He was wearing a Taoist robe. His body exuded an immortal aura. He was so extraordinary, but his identity was a mystery. Lin Feng suspected that this man was the master of this temple in the past. But this was only Lin Feng's guess. As for whether it was true or not, Lin Feng did not know. Now he had appeared again. It was different from the first time. This time, he did not disappear. His back seemed a little desolate. Lin Feng was very curious about this mysterious existence. But Lin Feng knew that this was not a cultivator of flesh and blood. At most, perhaps it was just a brand left behind in the past. Senior, Lin Feng cupped his fists at this existence. But this existence ignored Lin Feng. He walked toward the 3rd temple. Soon, he entered the 3rd temple. Lin Feng also walked toward the 3rd temple. When he arrived, he saw the plaque above the door of the 3rd temple. There were 5 big words written on it. Shinko Temple. This was an ancient divine language, a language that had long been lost. Lin Feng learned this language from the demon lord. Lin Feng did not know who this Shinko was. Lin Feng entered the third temple. However, the man in the Taoist robe disappeared once again. Lin Feng searched all over the temple, but he could not find that existence. He disappeared. Lin Feng could not help but mutter to himself. That existence was very mysterious. He appeared for a short while and then disappeared. Perhaps it was really just a brand, and it was a brand that did not have any consciousness. Lin Feng collected his thoughts. His gaze then turned to the statue of the god worshipped in the third temple. Chapter 36:10. The existence enshrined in the third temple was obviously the Shinko written on the plaque. What surprised Lin Feng was that this Shinko actually had 3 eyes. However, this Shinko was a human. The reason why Lin Feng was able to determine that this Shinko was a human was because Shinko had the legendary mark of the 3 emperors between his eyebrows. Even though it was just a statue, the mark of the 3 emperors also appeared. The mark of the 3 emperors was very extraordinary. Rumor had it that only cultivators who had obtained the teachings of the 3 emperors of heaven, earth, and man would be able to produce the mark of the 3 emperors. The mark of the 3 emperors would appear at the corner of a cultivator's right eye, in the form of a golden human. This was the mark of the 3 emperors. Only human cultivators could show the mark of the 3 emperors. Whether it was the classic of mountains and seas or some Tao scriptures, they all recorded some information about the mark of the 3 emperors. Lin Feng had seen the introduction of the mark of the 3 emperors more than once. However, Lin Feng had never seen the real mark of the 3 emperors, but now he actually saw it on a statue. The mark of the 3 emperors could protect the cultivator with the mark of the 3 emperors. Rumor had it that cultivators who cultivated the mark of the 3 emperors could even summon the power of the 3 emperors scattered between heaven and earth to fight against their enemies. Controlling the mark of the 3 emperors, it was absolutely heaven-defying. Demon Lord, do you know who this Shinko is? He actually cultivated the mark of the 3 emperors. How terrifying! Lin Feng said, Shinko, in the past, he was indeed a figure that could shock the heavens and earth. The Demon Lord said. Lin Feng casually asked. He didn't expect the Demon Lord to actually know Shinko's identity. This shocked Lin Feng. The current Demon Lord seemed to know very few things and people that he didn't know. Lin Feng even suspected that the Demon Lord had exchanged souls with someone. Who is he? Lin Feng asked. The Demon Lord didn't directly answer Lin Feng. Instead, he recited a poem. The appearance was handsome and dignified. His ears drooped on his shoulders, and his eyes were bright, wearing a Sanshan flying phoenix hat and a light yellow collar, golden boots with coiling dragon socks, a jade belt, and 8 treasures makeup. There was a crescent-shaped bow at his waist and a 3-pointed double-edged spear in his hand. He split Peach Mountain with his axe to save his mother, and hit the Yuluo twin phoenixes with his flick. Killing 8 monsters killed 8 monsters' reputation, the 7 saints of the Brotherhood. His heart is lofty, and he does not recognize the heavenly family's relatives. His nature is arrogant, and he lives in Guanjiang. Akashiro, Akawi, heroic spirit saint manifested as boundless Hornerling. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown. That poem contained a lot of information. Is this Erlang true Lord Xiansheng? Asked Lin Feng. The Demon Lord nodded and said, Yes, this Erlang is Shinko. His surname is Yang, and his name is Jin. He was one of the gods who was conferred the title during the first investiture. I told you about the 4 emperors before. The head of the 4 emperors, the Jade Emperor, is Shinko's uncle. Legend has it that his mother was the Jade Emperor's sister. Because she envied the love of the mortal world, she secretly came to the mortal world. She met a scholar surnamed Yang and married him. The Jade Emperor's sister gave birth to 3 children for Yang. The Erlang in the middle was Yang Jian. When the Jade Emperor knew that his sister secretly came to the mortal world, he was very angry, so he pressed his sister under the Peach Mountain to suffer. Yang Jian's ability was extraordinary since he was young. When Yang Jian grew to 17 years old, he was already unstoppable. He once killed 8 monsters in the Erlang Mountain. This was the origin of killing 8 monsters. Thus, he held a mountain-splitting axe and split the Peach Mountain, saving his mother, who was being pressed under the mountain. The mother and son reunited happily, but unfortunately, the Jade Emperor's sister had been pressed under the mountain for too long. She had not seen the sun for more than 10 years, and her body was covered with white hair. Thus, Erlang placed her on the mountain to bask in the sun. When the Jade Emperor heard that Erlang was going to split the mountain, he was very angry. In order to get rid of his family's shame, he released 9 suns into the sky and burned his sister to death. Erlang was filled with pain and hatred. He furiously chased after the 9 suns in the sky. He caught 1 in each hand, but he had nowhere to put it. He lifted 2 mountains and pressed them down. Then he looked at the 7 suns in the sky and picked up a shoulder pole to carry the 7 mountains and continued chasing after the suns. This was the legend of Erlang carries the mountains. Just like that, only the last sun was left. Erlang chased it all the way into the Eastern Sea. At the seaside, he was stopped by the 3rd princess of the Eastern Sea Dragon King. The exhausted Erlang fainted in the 3rd princess's gentle embrace. Erlang hated his uncle, the Jade Emperor, for his mother's death. The Jade Emperor also knew that he was in the wrong, so he named him Shinko. However, Erlang still ignored his uncle. He was determined not to live in the heavenly court, but to receive incense in the lower realm. He was accompanied by the 7 sages of May Mountain in front of the tent. He had 1,200 grass gods under his command. He only listened to the Jade Emperor, which meant that he only obeyed orders and did not try to get close to him. This was too proud to recognize the heavenly family, too proud to live in Guanjiang. In Yang Jian's life, the number of times he was defeated was extremely limited. One time, he used his arm to block the blood-dissipating sword. The other time, he fought with the great sage equaling heaven for 3,000 rounds. Both sides were injured. They were all injured. Apart from these 2 dangers, Yang Jian was basically a person who turned the tide. He took care of the situation in times of danger. It was said that Yang Jian played a role in stabilizing the situation in several battles during the era of the titled gods. If not for him, countless people in the world would have died in vain. Unfortunately, in the end, he did not have a good ending. After hearing the demon lord's words, Lin Feng was extremely shocked. This Shinko was too strong and terrifying. Moreover, he did not lose to the great sage equaling heaven. It was really inconceivable. How did he die? Lin Feng asked curiously. The era of the titled gods has always been chaotic. Many things from that era have been buried in the river of time. Thus, there are many different opinions about Yang Jian's death. However, there are 2 versions that are more credible. The demon lord said, the first version is that Yang Jian died because of his wife and children. It is said that some terrifying existences captured Yang Jian's wife and children, then lured Yang Jian out. They ambushed a large number of experts and killed Yang Jian. The second version is that Yang Jian died to quell the chaos in the heavenly court. In the era of the titled gods, the foreign living beings, the living beings that transcended eras, the innate spirits, and the various major races were at odds with each other. Yang Jian was besieged and killed when he was trying to quell a riot. A peerless expert of a generation fell just like that. However, as for how he died, there is no way to find out. Why is Yang Jian's statue enshrined in a Taoist temple? He shouldn't be a Taoist, right? Chapter 36:11. The demon lord said, "Rumor has it that Yang Jian obtained the inheritance of an ancient monk and is a lay disciple of Buddhism. However, as the saying goes, Buddhism is Tao. In the end, Yang Jian is still a Taoist." So that's how it is. Lin Feng could not help but nod his head. Within Shinko's temple, sounds of Tao could be heard. Lin Feng felt that there might be some precious treasures here. If he searched carefully, he might be able to find them. Was this temple built by Yang Jian in the past, or was it built for him by later generations? Lin Feng could not help but mutter to himself. He searched the third temple for something left behind by Shinko, but after searching for a while, he found nothing. This made Lin Feng feel rather disappointed. Could it be that there's really nothing here? Lin Feng could not help but mutter to himself. Or perhaps it's just because those things are not fated to be with me? Lin Feng felt that it was impossible for nothing to be left behind in Shinko's temple. There must be something shocking left behind. However, Lin Feng could not find those things. If he were to tear down the temple, there might be a possibility. However, Lin Feng would not do that, because this temple was too important. The Taoists outside were able to resist the darkness erosion, thanks to the existence of this temple. If he were to tear down the temple, who would be able to resist the darkness erosion? Perhaps all of them would perish here. Lin Feng was naturally aware of this situation. However, Lin Feng quickly regained his senses. He had been too stubborn earlier. He had even fallen into a demonic trap. How could the world's treasures be obtained by him? When he entered Shinko's temple, didn't he already obtain the Taoist sacred tree, the crepe myrtle tree? Ask, what treasure could be compared to the crepe myrtle tree in price? Many times. One had to know how to be content. Many thanks to Shinko for the crepe myrtle tree. This junior will take his leave. Lin Feng bowed 3 times to Shinko. Then he walked outside. Finally, Lin Feng walked out of the temple. He's out. That temple is so extraordinary. I wonder what kind of treasure this Lin Feng obtained from the temple. I'm not sure, but I can imagine that there must be an amazing harvest. If I can kill him, I'll get at least 10 heaven-defying opportunities. Killing him is easier said than done. Our Holy War Alliance's geniuses are strong enough to kill him, but where are they? Asked Lin Feng. Send out sovereigns and saint emperors. They'll definitely be able to take this kid's life. When the cultivators of the Holy War Alliance saw Lin Feng come out, their eyes flashed with dense killing intent. The cultivators of the Holy War Alliance hated Lin Feng to the bone. Even in his dreams, he wanted to kill Lin Feng. Meanwhile, the members of the Immortal Gods Alliance and the Demon Alliance looked on as if they were watching a show. What did you get from the temple? Taoist Wu Liang looked at Lin Feng and asked. Lin Feng said, a crepe myrtle tree. He didn't hide it from Taoist Wu Liang. Although this damned Taoist Wu Liang didn't seem very reliable most of the time. However, Taoist Wu Liang was indeed Lin Feng's sworn friend. He was one of Lin Feng's best friends. Therefore, Lin Feng didn't intend to hide what he had obtained from the temple from Taoist Wu Liang. After hearing the words crepe myrtle tree, Taoist Wu Liang's eyes almost popped out. The crepe myrtle tree was the sacred tree of Taoism. Naturally, Taoist Wu Liang knew about it. Lin Feng knew about the crepe myrtle tree from Taoist Wu Liang. What a heaven-defying opportunity. As the saying goes, when we meet, we get half. Split the crepe myrtle tree into 2. Each of us gets half a crepe myrtle tree. Taoist Wu Liang grinned. This damned Taoist Wu Liang's eyes were glowing green. He couldn't wait to rob Lin Feng clean right now. Lin Feng rolled his eyes and said, "Wouldn't it be dead if it split into two?" Taoist Wu Liang said, "A sacred tree like the crepe myrtle tree, even if it's split into two, it won't die. Hurry up and do it." This Taoist Wu Liang can't wait to have half of the crepe myrtle tree. Splitting the crepe myrtle tree into two, this damned Taoist Wu Liang could even come up with such a wicked idea. Lin Feng had a new understanding of Taoist Wu Liang's shamelessness. He said, "The crepe myrtle tree has already developed a spiritual consciousness and is very powerful. The crepe myrtle tree chose to follow me, which means that it trusts me. So don't have any more ideas about the crepe myrtle tree." Hearing Lin Feng's words, Taoist Wu Liang felt as if his heart was being scratched by 100 claws. He really wanted to get the crepe myrtle tree, but at present there was no hope. At this time, Lin Feng suddenly noticed that the crepe myrtle tree was moving. A branch separated from the crepe myrtle tree, and the branch that separated from it was extremely extraordinary, because the branch that separated from it was surrounded by the sacred light, and there were runes surging out, but in the end, those runes converged back into the body. Then the branch flew out. Lin Feng was surprised. He roughly understood the meaning of the crepe myrtle tree. The crepe myrtle tree separated a branch and let Lin Feng give this branch to Taoist Wu Liang. What a vigorous vitality! Lin Feng was very surprised. This branch was extraordinary. Its vitality was as majestic as the sea. It was not like an ordinary branch at all. It was really shocking and moving. Such a tree branch was too extraordinary. Lin Feng guessed that this should be one of the trump cards left by the crepe myrtle tree. The crepe myrtle tree following him was also a gamble. In case it lost the gamble, at that time, it would be beyond redemption. So the crepe myrtle tree left a branch. Perhaps the crepe myrtle tree sensed the extraordinariness of Taoist Wu Liang. Therefore, it took the initiative to let Lin Feng give this branch to Taoist Wu Liang to cultivate. In the future, the crepe myrtle tree following him, if it really met with misfortune at that time, and the new life cultivated by this branch, perhaps one day it would be able to return. Take this crepe myrtle tree branch. Maybe it can cultivate a new crepe myrtle tree. Lin Feng handed the branch to Taoist Wu Liang. Taoist Wu Liang glanced at the crepe myrtle tree branch and finally revealed a smile on his face. He hurriedly put away the crepe myrtle tree branch, afraid that others would see it. The great battle outside was still very fierce. Dozens of Taoists and the terrifying existence in the darkness fought until the sky fell and the earth cracked. The sun and moon lost their light. The land of death seemed to be about to collapse. Such a battle was really shocking. The erosion of the darkness was blocked by dozens of Taoists. And the sky, it gradually brightened up. When the first beam of light shone down, the darkness that swallowed heaven and earth receded quickly like the tide. Heaven and earth, brightness was restored again. The sun rose. The darkness dissipated. The earth recovered. A new day began. Chapter 36:12. One by one, the Taoist priests walked towards the mountain peak. They were so holy and otherworldly, like the lords of the great Tao, surrounded by holy light, like saints who had achieved the Tao. Dozens of Taoist priests entered the temple again. Lin Feng guessed. These Taoist priests were the ones who listened to Shinko's preaching in the past. They imprinted themselves in Shinko's temple to protect the mountain peak in the darkness. The temple gradually became illusory. In reality, last night, many people tried to enter the temple. However, only Lin Feng succeeded in entering the temple. Everyone else failed. Many cultivators were extremely curious about Shinko's temple. They wanted to know everything about the temple. They also wanted to know what treasures were in the temple, but they couldn't enter the temple. Naturally, all of this was for naught. Shinko's temple became more and more illusory. Night fell. When darkness struck, Shinko's temple appeared. But when the darkness faded, when the day appeared, true Lord Xianxing Temple, on the other hand, would conceal one's body. What a pity we couldn't enter the temple. Many cultivators sighed. They felt extremely regretful that they couldn't enter Shinko's temple to explore. That person is Lin Feng. Beside him is that wicked Taoist priest, Lin Feng, who entered Shinko's temple before. At this time, a cultivator said aloud. As soon as this was said, it caused an uproar. Many people were shocked. Lin Feng had surprisingly entered the Xianxing Celestial Emperor's temple. How incredible! So he is Lin Feng. Among the cultivators of the Sacred War Alliance, there was an expert who looked coldly at Lin Feng. That was an emperor-level expert. His combat strength was exceptionally strong. This emperor-level expert wanted to kill Lin Feng. This was a very terrifying existence. He came from the 8-winged clan. This race was born with 8 pairs of wings, and this race had a special characteristic. Although their bodies were similar to humans, the men of this race had eagle noses and eagle eyes. They looked very ugly. However, the women of this clan were extremely beautiful. This cultivator from the 8-winged clan was an expert at the pinnacle of the Emperor's sect. In the future, he might have the chance to stabilize the venerable Emperor realm. This time, he took the risk to enter Destiny Swamp in search of opportunities. It was all for the sake of breaking through to the Emperor realm in one go. Such an existence was naturally and incomparably terrifying expert. Ordinary people would not dare to provoke them. Seeing that Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang were about to leave, the cultivator from the 8-winged clan quickly chased after him. Boom! It didn't have too many wings. The cultivators of the 8-winged clan immediately attacked. The 8 pairs of wings flapped wildly, and then a hurricane swept across the world. Endless storms. It directly charged towards Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang. Damn, a birdman is sneak attacking us. Taoist Wu Yang shouted. After hearing how Taoist Wu Yang addressed the cultivators of the 8-winged clan, the corners of many people's mouths twitched violently. The 8-winged clan was the royal family of the Holy War. This clan was abnormally terrifying. The 8 pairs of wings flapped gently. It could tear apart the starry sky world of 100,000 miles. But now, Taoist Wu Liang actually used the word birdman to describe the cultivators of the 8-winged clan. It was simply audacious. Many people even thought that they had heard wrongly. The cultivator of the 8-winged clan was filled with monstrous killing intent. The 8 pairs of wings flapped crazily. The storm was getting stronger and stronger. Taoist Wu Liang took out a white jade bottle. A powerful devouring power surged out of the white jade bottle. Suddenly, the storm was swallowed by the white jade bottle. Taoist Wu Liang had many treasures in his hands. Most of the time, he didn't even need to make a move, because he could rely on various treasures to resolve his dangerous situation. This kind of means was not something that anyone could have. You do have some means. After killing the 2 of you, it seems that I can get a lot of good things. The cultivator of the 8-winged clan walked towards Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang step by step. His eyes flashed with dense killing intent. This terrifying existence did not put Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang in his eyes. In his opinion, killing Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang was not something difficult. A mere birdman dares to boast so shamelessly? Taoist Wu Liang ridiculed. He continued to address this expert of the eight-winged clan as a birdman. As for Lin Feng, he said, there are simply too many people who don't know the difference between life and death. Although you have 8 more pairs of wings than others, your brain doesn't seem to be as smart as others. With such a weak cultivation base, you dare to come out and jump around? Are you tired of living? Lin Feng pursed his lips and said, hearing Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang mocking the cultivator of the eight-winged clan, many people could not help but reveal bitter smiles. The cultivator of the eight-winged clan was a pinnacle expert of an emperor's sect. How powerful was he? And now he was being humiliated by Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang did not seem to put this cultivator of the eight-winged clan in their eyes. Many people felt that Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang were too arrogant. This was especially true for the cultivators of the Sacred War Alliance. They really hoped that the cultivator of the eight-winged clan would show off his might and kill Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang. I want your dog lives. The cultivator of the eight-winged clan roared in exasperation and quickly charged towards Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang. Kill this birdman, then tear off his wings and use them to make barbecue wings. The taste should be quite good, right? Lin Feng said with a grin. Taoist Wu Liang's eyes immediately lit up, and he said, "It's been a long time since I enjoyed your barbecue. Today we must try it." Of course, no problem. This birdman has 8 pairs of wings. It's enough for you to eat to your heart's content, Lin Feng said. The surrounding cultivators all looked at Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang with dumbfounded expressions. A battle of life and death. These two fellows were actually thinking about food. Moreover, they seemed to want to make the wings of the cultivator of the eight-winged clan into barbecue wings. They really didn't put the cultivator of the eight-winged clan in their eyes at all. The eyes of the cultivator of the eight-winged clan flashed with dense killing intent. His 8 pairs of wings rapidly enlarged. Each pair of wings instantly expanded to a length of 100 meters. Moreover, his wings were densely covered with black feathers. Each feather emitted a cold luster. They were like peerless demonic swords. The 8 pairs of wings of the cultivator of the eight-winged clan flapped gently. In an instant, a clanging sound came from the void, as if a divine weapon had been unsheathed. After the 8 pairs of wings of the eight-winged clan were displayed in their strongest state, the power was extremely terrifying. Feeling the tyrannical aura emitted from the body of the cultivator of the eight-winged clan, many cultivators' faces became as pale as paper. They were deeply shocked by the powerful battle strength of the cultivator of the eight-winged clan. "Now you can all die." The voice of the cultivator of the eight-winged clan was indifferent. The power of his 8 pairs of wings was really powerful. They gently streaked across the void. In an instant, the void was directly torn apart. Cracks began to appear in the void. These 8 pairs of wings were like 8 supreme treasures. They enveloped Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang. Then, Chapter 36:13. These experts from the royal families of the myriad races were indeed not to be underestimated. Their bloodline was already very powerful. When they were at a lower realm, they could already challenge those of a higher realm. Moreover, they had already broken through to the peak of the Emperor realm. Therefore, the combat strength they displayed was really shocking. "Let's join forces and kill him." Lin Feng looked at Wu Liang Taoist and said, "This cultivator from the eight-winged clan was indeed very powerful." Lin Feng believed that it wouldn't be a problem to kill the cultivator from the eight-winged clan with his own means. However, it would take some time. After all, The strength of the cultivator from the Eight-Winged Clan was not made of paper. This cultivator from the Eight-Winged Clan was still very powerful. However, if he joined forces with Wu Liang Daoist, the time needed to kill the cultivator from the Eight-Winged Clan would be greatly reduced. The cultivator from the Eight-Winged Clan was indeed powerful. However, it was still not enough to contend against the joint attack of Lin Feng and Wu Liang Daoist. Since there was a simpler way to kill the cultivator from the Eight-Winged Clan, why would they use a more difficult way to kill him? Whether it was Lin Feng or Wu Liang Daoist, they were fearless, to put it bluntly. So what if Lin Feng and Wu Liang Daoist stirred up trouble in the Heavenly Sage Great World? They were not from the Heavenly Sage Great World. If they really couldn't do it, they could just leave the Heavenly Sage Great World. The Starry Sky World was so big. Was there no place to stay? Moreover, when Lin Feng and Wu Liang Daoist came to the Heavenly Sage Great World, they didn't plan to stay here for too long. Lin Feng broke through to the Emperor Realm. He would leave the Heavenly Sage Great World. At most, Wu Liang Daoist wouldn't rob the tombs of the myriad race's ancestors. Kill this birdman. I really want to eat roasted bird wings now. Wu Liang Daoist shouted loudly. Wu Liang Daoist waved his hand, and a golden pair of scissors flew out. The tail of the golden pair of scissors was engraved with a dragon's head. This was a very powerful magic treasure, called the Golden Dragon Scissors. With a light pinch, it could easily destroy ordinary bronze artifacts. If it pinched a person's body, it would definitely break the person's body. When Wu Liang Daoist to attack, Lin Feng used an empty space technique first. This was the use of the Tao of space. With Lin Feng as the center, the space within a 1,000-meter radius seemed to have been sealed. Only Lin Feng and Daoist Wu Liang could move freely in the confined space. As for the cultivator from the Eight-Winged Clan, his body was not completely immobilized. However, his speed was also greatly suppressed. At the same time, Lin Feng utilized the Bing mantra, controlling the 3 stone swords to fly out with lightning-like speed towards the cultivators from the Eight-Winged Clan. The power of the 3 stone swords was boundless. It shook lightly. The void collapsed. It was truly powerful to the extreme, shocking everyone. Clang, clang, clang. The stone sword collided with the wings of the Eight-Winged Clan, and a series of clanging sounds could be heard. The sounds were like 2 peerless divine weapons clashing together. The 3 stone swords blocked the attacks of the Eight-Winged Clan's cultivators. At the same time, Daoist Wu Liang's Golden Flood Dragon Scissors took advantage of this opportunity to quietly arrive beside the Eight-Winged Clan's cultivator. The Golden Flood Dragon Scissors locked onto its target. Then, the scissors snapped. It directly cut off one of the Eight-Winged Clan's cultivator's wings. Ah, my wings! After the Eight-Winged Clan's cultivator lost one of his wings, he immediately let out an incomparably mournful scream. Blood gushed out from the broken wing. Good chance! Lin Feng's face suddenly revealed an incomparably cold expression. The 3 stone swords took advantage of the Eight-Winged Clan's cultivator's injury and quickly rushed forward. Lin Feng was constantly increasing the power of the 3 stone swords. Under his control, the power of the 3 stone swords was raised to the peak level. The 3 stone swords once again slashed towards the Eight-Winged Clan's cultivator. The Eight-Winged Clan's cultivator's wings flapped as fast as lightning, blocking the attacks of the 3 stone swords. But this time, because the Eight-Winged Clan's cultivator was injured, his battle strength had greatly decreased. In addition, Lin Feng had already raised the power of the 3 stone swords to the extreme. It was to achieve a sure-kill attack. Therefore, the Eight-Winged Clan's cultivator was unable to completely resolve the attack of the 3 stone swords. although the eight-winged clan's cultivator blocked the attack of two stone swords. However, the third stone sword pierced through the eight-winged clan's cultivator's body. How could this be? The eight-winged clan's cultivator looked at the stone sword that pierced through his body in disbelief. An extremely unwilling expression appeared on his face. He didn't want to die. However, he felt his consciousness becoming more and more blurred. Heavens! This eight-winged clan's cultivator seemed to be only one step away from the Emperor realm. He was actually killed by Lin Feng and that wicked Taoist. Moreover, they killed him so easily. The combat strength of these two is too terrifying. The rumors in the outside world are indeed true. These two are indeed powerful. Of course, it has a lot to do with the supreme treasures they have. If they didn't have those powerful treasures, perhaps they wouldn't be so powerful. But then again, treasures are also a part of one's strength. If you want to kill these two, you'll either need to send out a few supreme prodigies or a powerhouse above the Emperor realm. Otherwise, it's absolutely impossible to kill these two. The surrounding cultivators began to discuss one after another. They looked at Lin Feng and Wu Liang Daoist with horrified expressions. Bang! Lin Feng rushed forward and directly tore off the eight-winged clan's cultivator's wings. The eight-winged clan's cultivator screamed miserably. Does that guy really want to roast the eight-winged clan's cultivator's wings? A cultivator said as the corner of his mouth twitched violently. The eight-winged clan's cultivator was a tyrannical existence. But now he had become someone else's dish. What a pitiful thing. After tearing off the eight-winged clan's cultivator's wings, Lin Feng threw a punch at the eight-winged clan's cultivator. The eight-winged clan's cultivator's body exploded. Next, after Lin Feng collected the eight-winged clan's cultivator's source energy and storage ring, he and Wu Liang Daoist flew into the distance. The rest of the people chose to avoid them. Lin Feng and Wu Liang Daoist were too cruel. Although the cultivators of the Holy War Alliance couldn't wait to cut Lin Feng and Wu Liang Daoist into pieces, but they knew it was best not to provoke these two people. If they didn't have enough strength to provoke these two people, wouldn't they be courting death? Lin Feng and Wu Liang Daoist landed on another mountain peak. Then, the two of them began to make a fire and cook. Lin Feng hadn't roasted meat for a while. But fortunately, his roasting technique hadn't been abandoned. He started a bonfire. He skewered the meat. Then, he sprinkled all kinds of ingredients. After doing all this, Lin Feng took out the eight-winged clan's cultivator's storage ring. Next, his divine sense invaded the storage ring of the eight-winged clan cultivator and began to search. This was an expert at the peak of the Emperor's sect level. Chapter 36:14. The storage ring wasn't particularly big, but it wasn't small either. It was about 10 mu in size. The items inside were also dazzling. As a cultivator of the myriad races, imperial family, and an emperor-level expert, he naturally had a lot of treasures on him. Moreover, this person seemed to have obtained some fortuitous encounters in the swamp of fate. Lin Feng even saw a few immortal herbs and immortal medicines that were more than 1,000,000 years old. Those immortal herbs and immortal medicines had just been sealed not long ago. Therefore, Lin Feng guessed that he had obtained them from the swamp of fate. When he saw one of the items, Lin Feng's face immediately revealed a shocked expression. That item! It was a stone. That stone was rather special. It had two sides. The front side was golden, while the back side was black. It was densely covered with runes. Lin Feng felt that the stone should be extremely extraordinary. It was an instinctive feeling. He used his divine will to probe the stone. However, Lin Feng's divine will was blocked by the stone. That stone was simply too extraordinary. Even a cultivator's divine couldn't probe the stone. Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. What kind of stone is it? It can actually block the divine will's probing. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. He felt that the stone was very special. Apart from that mysterious stone, Lin Feng also discovered another item. It was actually a piece of immortal iron. It was a material used to forge immortal tools. Although it was only the size of a fist, its value was immeasurable. There were many treasures on the eight-winged clan's cultivators. However, the ones that truly piqued Lin Feng's interest were the mysterious stone and the piece of immortal iron. What treasures are inside? Taoist Wu Liang asked impatiently. Lin Feng took out the golden stone and the black stone, as well as the celestial iron. He said, "These two items should be the most extraordinary items. As for the other items, their value is far inferior to these two items." Blazing immortal iron. Taoist Wu Liang looked at the piece of immortal iron. The piece of immortal iron was surrounded by flames. This type of immortal iron was called Raging Inferno Immortal Iron. It was a type of immortal iron that was born from the flames. It was an extraordinary type of immortal iron. It was suitable to be forged into a fire-type artifact. The future, there was a high chance that it could evolve into an immortal artifact. Of course, whether or not these magic treasures could evolve into immortal artifacts did not depend on whether or not the materials used to forge them had reached immortal grade. The most important thing was what happened in the future. For example, did the owner of the magic treasure have the ability to upgrade the magic treasure to the immortal tier? In order to upgrade a magic treasure to the level of an immortal item, there was an extremely high requirement for the cultivator's realm. The immeasurable Taoist had his eyes on the Inferno Immortal Iron. Clearly, he had taken a fancy to the Inferno Immortal Iron. This was also in line with Lin Feng's intentions. Lin Feng felt that the stone, which was half gold and half black, was very mysterious. Perhaps it was hiding an extraordinary secret. As such, Lin Feng was the most interested in that stone. "The immortal iron is yours. The stone is mine." Lin Feng said, "No problem." Taoist Wu Liang nodded. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang shared the rest equally. 2 hours later, the fragrance of meat began to spread out. It was really too fragrant. Anyone who smelled it would probably have a stomachache. Such delicious roasted wings. It was enough to make those fasters drool. During this period of time, the news of Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang spread like wildfire. It was easy for people to recognize them as a pair. The news of Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang working together to kill an expert of the eight-winged clan and then cutting off 8 pairs of wings to roast wings spread out. This matter caused quite a stir. The royal family of the myriad races was high and mighty. Some of the royal families of the myriad races did have special hobbies. For example, some royal families of the myriad races liked to eat human babies raw. This was because, among all the races, the skin of the babies born from the human race was the most delicate. The meat quality was also the best. There were also some perverted cultivators of the myriad races who liked to eat human meat raw. In fact, it was not strange for this kind of thing to happen among the myriad races. The myriad races thought that they were high and mighty because of history. They hated the human race very much. Therefore, the myriad races liked to enslave the human race. When dealing with the human race, their methods were also more brutal. It was common to treat the human race as food. But the human race treated the cultivators of the myriad races as food. This had never happened before. This was because the human race couldn't afford to offend the myriad races. They couldn't wait to avoid the myriad races. who would offend the myriad races, not to mention killing the cultivators of the royal family of the 10,000 races and treating them as food. This sounded too crazy, but Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang really did it. Cultivators arrived one after another and stood in the distance to watch. They saw the huge roasted wings skewered on the bonfire. The corners of many cultivators' mouths twitched violently. The human race actually dared to treat the royal family of the myriad races as food. This was a blatant slap to the face. This was unacceptable to many of the myriad races. Lin Feng and that wicked Taoist are two scourges. If we don't kill them, it won't be enough to quell the anger in our hearts. A cultivator of the myriad races said coldly, "How can they be killed so easily? They are too brutal. We need to wait for the time being. There will definitely be experts who will kill them." A cultivator said. At this time, the roasted wings were already cooked. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang each held a huge roasted wing and started eating. These two guys each held a wine jar while eating the roasted wings, while drinking. It was truly a great enjoyment in life. What a brutal guy! The cultivators of the Immortal God Alliance and the Demon Alliance clicked their tongues in wonder. Although there were many cultivators of the myriad races among them, they were sworn enemies with the cultivators of the Sacred War Alliance. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang were eating the cultivators of the Sacred War Alliance. It had nothing to do with them, and they were very happy to watch the show. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang ate all the roasted wings like a tornado. Each of them also drank 10 jars of wine. Now, they were so full that they couldn't move. I heard that there are many races of the myriad races that have wings, such as the golden eagle race, the heavenly lion race, and so on. We can consider catching a few back, chopping off their wings, and continuing to roast them. I wonder if the taste is better than the roasted wings made by the cultivators of the 8-winged race. Taoist Wu Liang said, "Now that you mention it, I can't wait to catch a few cultivators of the myriad races with wings." Lin Feng said, after the cultivators of the Sacred War Alliance heard the conversation between Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang, their expressions became extremely gloomy. Some of the cultivators of the myriad races with wings quickly left this area, fearing that they would be targeted by the brutal duo of Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang. At that time, they would really want to cry but have no tears. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Chapter 36:15. More than 10 cultivators landed on the mountain peak where Lin Feng and Taoist Immeasurable Cloud were. Most of these people were cultivators of the myriad races, but there were 2 human cultivators among them, although the aura of this group of people was very terrifying. However, Lin Feng felt that this group of people did not have any hostility towards him and Taoist Immeasurable. This meant that this group of people in front of him, they should not be cultivators of the Sacred War Alliance. If they were not cultivators of the Sacred War Alliance, there was a high chance that they were cultivators of the Immortal Gods Alliance or the Demon Alliance. Lin Feng saw the 2 human cultivators, so he guessed that these people were most likely cultivators of the Immortal Gods Alliance. This was because there were only human cultivators in the Immortal Gods Alliance. May I ask if you are Brother Lin and Taoist Immeasurable? At this moment, a cultivator in blue smiled and cupped his fists before asking. This cultivator in blue was one of the 2 human cultivators. The other human cultivator was a woman. She was wearing a long purple dress, which completely revealed her graceful and alluring figure. It was really too charming, and this man and woman had some similarities in appearance. Lin Feng guessed this man and woman might be a pair of siblings. Lin Feng nodded and said, "That's right. Mate, I know who you are, the blue-clothed male cultivator said. I'm Wu Xiao. I'm a cultivator of the Immortal Gods Alliance. So it's Brother Wu. Nice to meet you. Lin Feng cupped his fists. Taoist Immeasurable said, It seems that the people of the Immortal Gods Alliance have something to discuss with the two of us. Taoist Immeasurable had always been a straightforward person who did things his own way. If there was something in his heart, he would not hide it. Wu Xiao said, That's right. However, we need to find a place to discuss this matter properly. What do the two of you think? Taoist Immeasurable said, If there are many benefits, we will naturally be interested. Wu Xiao said, Don't worry, Taoist Immeasurable. There will definitely be many benefits from this matter. All right, then let's find a quieter place to discuss this matter. Lin Feng said. Everyone nodded. Everyone left the place. Then he found a quiet place. Wu Xiao introduced the group of cultivators on their side to Lin Feng. As Lin Feng had guessed, the female cultivator was Wu Xiao's younger sister. Her name was Wu Yuehan. Among the other people, there were three that caught Lin Feng's attention. 2 men and 1 woman. The female cultivator was wearing a fiery red dress. Her lips were fiery red, and her figure was hot and sexy. That female cultivator was called Ice Lake Snow. Her name didn't really match her appearance because the name Ice River Snow gave people a feeling of being as cold as ice, keeping people at a distance of 1,000 miles. She was as cold as a fairy from the Moon Palace. It could only be observed from afar. Do not approach. But in reality, she was so sexy and charming. She had a pair of charming eyes. Among the other two, a cultivator dressed in Confucian robes was actually an expert of the Confucian Tao, the way of Confucianism, for the inheritance of the human clan. It was rare to see a cultivator from another race who was actually a successor of the Confucian Tao. However, this Confucian cultivator was not a human cultivator. He was a cultivator from the myriad races. However, no one knew exactly which race it belonged to. After some introductions, Lin Feng found out that this cultivator was called Lu Haoren. The second cultivator was from the Lightning Clan. The Lightning Clan was one of the myriad races. This clan had a trace of lightning between their eyebrows. It was rumored that this clan had the power to control lightning. They were an extremely powerful clan. This cultivator from the Lightning Clan was called Zhang Lei. Lin Feng had the feeling that among those cultivators, there was a strong cultivator. Wu Xiao, Wu Yuehan, Ice Lake Snow, Lu Haoren, and Zhang Lei were the most powerful. The other people's cultivation bases should be slightly weaker than theirs. Of course, the rest of them were also the top figures of the younger generation of the Immortal God Alliance. After getting to know each other, they went straight to the point. Wu Xiao said, We heard that Brother Lin's attainments in array formations are unparalleled, while Taoist priest Wu Liang's attainments in feng shui are unparalleled. This time, we came to invite Brother Lin and Taoist priest Wu Liang to find a cave abode with us. Oh, cave abode? What cave abode? Lin Feng couldn't help but ask, puzzled. Wu Xiao said, To be precise, it should be an immortal abode called the Wandering Immortal Abode. Rumor has it that it was left behind by the Wandering Immortal. Wandering Immortal? What kind of person is this? Lin Feng asked, puzzled. This is an immortal level expert. In the past, he represented the heaven realm and patrolled the heavens. Later on, it was said that he died in the Destiny Swamp. Before he died, he built a cave abode. This cave abode is the Wandering Immortal Abode. Wu Yuehan said. Her voice was very clear and pleasant. It sounded like pearls of different sizes falling on a jade plate. Taoist priest Wu Liang said, If we don't have any clues, how difficult would it be to find the Wandering Immortal Abode in the Destiny Swamp? Lin Feng agreed with Taoist priest Wu Liang's words. If they only knew the whereabouts of the wandering immortal abode without any specific information, then the wandering immortal abode was destined to be difficult to find. It's not that we don't have a keepsake. This is the keepsake. Wu Xiu took out an item. It was actually a piece of broken armor. This piece of armor was stained with a large amount of blood. The blood had already dried up. However, it still emitted a bloody smell. What is this? Lin Feng could not help but ask after seeing the blood-stained armor. Wu Xiu said, "This is the wandering immortal's armor." In the battle back then, his armor was shattered. From this, it can be seen how tragic that battle was. In fact, when he entered the Destiny Swamp, it was said that he was chased by a terrifying existence. He had no choice but to escape into the Destiny Swamp, but in the end, he still could not escape the fate of death. Hearing this, Lin Feng and Taoist priest Wu Liang were very shocked. This was an immortal, a high and mighty existence. He was so powerful and terrifying. He was actually injured to such an extent. Moreover, he had no choice but to escape into the land of death to avoid being chased. What kind of existence was the one who had attacked the wandering immortal in the past? Thinking about it, it made one's hair stand on end. With this keepsake, perhaps we can try to find the wandering immortal abode. Lin Feng said, "That's great." The others could not help but reveal looks of joy. "We need to use this blood-stained armor." Lin Feng said, "No problem." Wu Xiu said, and handed the blood-stained armor to Lin Feng. After receiving the blood-stained armor, suddenly Lin Feng felt a bone-chilling coldness. Vaguely, he seemed to see an illusory world. In that illusory world, Chapter 36:16. That scene flashed by and then disappeared. That image might have been imprinted on the broken armor. In the past, when the armor was complete, it might have been glorious. But now it was broken and had no value. Lin Feng looked at it carefully, but he couldn't find anything special about it. The armor had been broken for too long. Its divinity was almost completely gone. Of course, the dried blood was still extraordinary. It contained a special power. Lin Feng handed the armor to Wu Liang Taoist. This armor was made from the starry sky immortal metal. Since the owner of the armor was someone like the wandering immortal, this armor must have been an immortal artifact, right? Wu Liang Taoist took the armor and said after looking at it. Everyone was shocked. Wu Liang Taoist could tell the material of the armor at a glance. That was enough to show how extraordinary this guy was. Who knew how many secrets this damned Taoist had in his heart that no one knew about. Even an immortal artifact was broken. The battle in the past is unimaginable. Wu Xiu and the others couldn't help but exclaim. The seductive and sexy beauty Han Jiangxue asked, "Can the two of you find any clues from this broken armor?" Han Jiangshue's voice was charming. After hearing it, his bones were about to melt. She really wanted his life. Beauties were poisonous. Perhaps she was talking about women like Han Jiangxue. Lin Feng said, "Maybe we can give it a try, but it's hard to say if we can succeed." Wu Liang Taoist said, "Everyone, please wait for a moment. The two of us will study it together." Han Jiangxue and the others nodded. They didn't say anything. Lin Feng and Wu Liang Taoist planned to use the Khanate 8 trigrams to deduce the location of the wandering immortal mansion. This broken armor was the medium used to deduce the location of the wandering immortal mansion. Han Jiangxue and the others looked at Lin Feng and Wu Liang Taoist, who were squatting on the ground and drawing something, with great interest. They were very curious about Lin Feng and Wu Liang Taoist. One was a rising powerhouse of the new generation of the human race in the 9 regions. The other was a grave robber who was hated by everyone. Such a combination really made people very curious. After a series of deductions, Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang stood up. Lin Feng said, "Everyone, we have tried to deduce a few places. We don't know if we can find the wandering immortal mansion. Let's go and take a look." Ice Lake Snow and the others nodded. Then, everyone followed Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang to the place where they had deduced. The Swamp of Destiny was extremely dangerous because there were many unknown creatures here. These unknown creatures were one of the most terrifying dangers. Of course, apart from these creatures, there were many other dangers that could not be explained. For example, the dark erosion that had appeared earlier. How terrifying was that? Lin Feng's group arrived at the first deduction location. This place was a valley, and in the middle of the valley was a huge cave. The group of people entered the cave and walked towards the interior of the cave. The cave was too quiet, and it was pitch black. They could not even see their own fingers. When they reached the depths of the cave, they saw a pair of eyes shining in the darkness. It was a pair of blood-red eyes. They did not know what kind of creature it was. When they saw the blood-red eyes, everyone felt as if they had fallen into an endless hell. The aura of death enveloped them. This made everyone feel a deep sense of horror. What kind of creature was that? How could it be so terrifying? They could not get close to it. It made them feel hopeless. Perhaps if anyone saw that terrifying creature, they would be like Lin Feng and the others who could not suppress the feeling of horror. "Let's go!" Lin Feng shouted in a deep voice. They did not dare to stay any longer and quickly rushed outside. The rest of the people also came back to their senses. Then they rushed outside in a panic. That unknown, terrifying creature pounced towards the crowd. However, there was a clattering sound. It was the sound of chains colliding. That powerful creature seemed to be restrained by the chains. Hence, its range of movement was very small. It was unable to pounce over. Lin Feng and the others left the cave without a hitch. After coming out, everyone's faces could not help but reveal a relieved expression. The situation just now was really too dangerous. They did not know what kind of terrifying existence it was, but the only thing they knew was that terrifying existence was indeed too powerful. Fortunately, it was imprisoned. Otherwise, Lin Feng and the others would be in extreme danger. This was the land of death. Whether it was the land of death in the 9 regions or the land of death in other worlds, it was full of danger and the unknown. Moreover, in many of the land of death, there were not only terrifying creatures that were imprisoned, there were also many powerful creatures that had long lost all consciousness and were cursed. The land of death was not only dangerous, and there were too many secrets hidden. The land of death itself was like a mystery. Under the lead of Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang, everyone continued to look for the wandering immortal mansion in other places. Everyone knew that the Swamp of Fate was a place full of danger. Here, they would face great danger at all times. Therefore, no matter what happened when they were looking for the wandering immortal mansion, they should have been able to foresee it. Therefore, no one would complain that Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang had brought them to an extremely dangerous place. Cultivators were full of adventurous spirit. At this moment, it was fully displayed. The group of people came to a lake for the second time. But here, they were attacked by a black evil dragon. This black evil dragon was extremely terrifying. Its combat power was heaven-defying. The group of people worked together, but there were still a few people who were injured. Fortunately, the group of people managed to escape successfully. Fortunately, they had extraordinary means. If it were other people who had encountered this terrifying black evil dragon, they would have suffered heavy casualties. They might even have been wiped out. After searching for 2 places, the sky gradually darkened. "It's dark. We need to find a mountain to hide." Lin Feng said. Wu Xiu, Han Jiangshui, and the others knew how terrifying the dark corrosion was. No one had any objections. The group of people found a mountain. They climbed up the mountain. There were many cultivators on the mountain. They were scattered all over. They were clearly separated. After an hour, the sun set. Then, endless darkness swept over from afar and swallowed all the light. Darkness. Chapter 36:17. When the darkness once again eroded the entire world, just like the first night, at the peak of the mountain. Similarly, a temple was revealed. The temple was shrouded in endless holy light, exuding a sacred power. That temple was the Shinko temple from before. What is going on? Why would the Shinko temple appear on this mountain? Lin Feng couldn't help but be confused. Then he thought of a possibility. Could it be? At the peak of every mountain in the swamp of destiny, why would a Shinko temple appear? In reality, these temples of true Lord Xiansheng were basically the same divine temple, but due to some special reasons, they could appear on different mountains. The darkness was invading the mountains. Fortunately, the holy light that surged out of the temple protected the mountain peak. Dozens of Taoists flew out. They charged into the dark world. They fought against the unknown existence in the dark world. This seemed to be their destiny. Countless years had passed. They were still fighting against the terrifying existence in the dark. But no one knew what kind of existence it was. The mountain peak was very quiet. Many Taoists were trying their best to make use of the limited time to recover. This was because when the day came, they would once again face new dangers or opportunities. They had to adjust their states. Otherwise, many sudden situations would be difficult to deal with when the time came. Lin Feng and the others found a place to rest. Lin Feng leaned against a tree and closed his eyes to rest. At this moment, a fragrant wind blew. Lin Feng opened his eyes. He realized that Ice Lake Snow had come to him. Lin Feng wasn't familiar with Ice Lake Snow. He didn't know much about this woman, and she didn't say much today. Lin Feng didn't know why Ice Lake Snow came to him. What was her motive? Of course, Lin Feng wouldn't show his doubts on his face. That would make it easy for others to see through his thoughts. Lin Feng smiled and said, "Fairy, you haven't rested yet?" Ice Lake Snow nodded and said, "Although my body is tired, I am not in the mood to sleep. Jiang Shui has some things that she would like to ask Lin Gongzi about, but she was not sure if it would be convenient for Lin Gongzi to clear her doubts." "Fairy, please speak your mind." Lin Feng said, "I heard that 9 prefectures is the starting point of the myriad worlds, so it's a very special place. There are 9 ancient lamps in 9 prefectures, known as the 9 prefectures' lanterns. They can stabilize the mountains and rivers of 9 prefectures. I heard that 9 prefectures was almost destroyed like many other great worlds, but thanks to the 9 prefectures' lanterns, they were able to stabilize the mountains and rivers of 9 prefectures. I'm sure Lin Gongzi has heard of the 9 prefectures' lanterns." Lin Feng had naturally heard of the 9 prefectures' lantern. He had even seen the 9 prefectures' lantern. The primal chaos ancient lamp was a supreme treasure that Lin Feng had created after being inspired by the 9 continents lamp. However, the 9 prefectures' lantern was only a legend to many. Lin Feng did not know why Ice Lake Snow was asking him about the 9 prefectures' lantern. Could it be that she was looking for the 9 prefectures' lantern? Lin Feng might not have been able to control the 9 prefectures' lantern, but he knew that it was an unimaginable treasure. It had stabilized the mountains and rivers of 9 prefectures protecting them. If 9 prefectures lost the 9 prefectures' lantern, who knew what would happen? Lin Feng said, "I've heard of the 9 prefectures' lantern, but it's only a legend. I'm not sure if the 9 prefectures' lantern really exists. Furthermore, I'm acquainted with all the top experts in 9 prefectures. I've never heard them mention the 9 prefectures' lantern. So in my opinion, the 9 prefectures' lantern is just a legend. There are too many legends like that. And sometimes we just need to treat them as stories. Just listen to them and don't take them to heart." Ice Lake Snow smiled. "Why do you sound so sure? It seems like you're trying to hide something. Could it be that you've seen the 9 prefectures' lantern?" Ice Lake Snow was an intelligent woman, but she was also very suspicious. She was suspicious of Lin Feng. She did not take these suspicions to heart. Instead, she said it directly. Perhaps she was trying to test Lin Feng. She wanted to see Lin Feng's reaction. Lin Feng said, "Don't you already have an answer? Why are you still asking me?" He. Ice Lake Snow couldn't help but giggle. This seductive and sexy woman's smile seemed to add to her seductive beauty. It made people involuntarily have a desire to conquer her. Ice Lake Snow said, "Don't overthink it. I'm just curious about the 9 prefectures' lantern after reading about it. That's why I came here to find out more about it. However, it seems like the 9 prefectures' lantern is just a legend. It's getting late, so I won't disturb you any longer," said Han Jiang, shui bowing in front of Lin Feng. Then she walked towards the resting area not far away. Lin Feng frowned. Why was Ice Lake Snow asking about the 9 prefectures' lantern? Could it really be like what she had said? She was just curious about the 9 prefectures' lantern after reading about it. Was that why she came here to find out more about it? It seemed reasonable. However, Lin Feng did not believe her. Lin Feng felt that Ice Lake Snow was trying to find out more about the 9 prefectures' lantern. She must have an ulterior motive. But what was her motive? Lin Feng was not sure. Lin Feng decided not to think about it anymore. They had fought a few battles during the day. Hence, Lin Feng was exhausted. He sat cross-legged and activated the Archean dragonesque elephant art. Then, he slowly recovered his exhausted body. That night, Fate Swamp was still not peaceful. The darkness that had invaded the world was still shocking. Luckily, the temple protected everyone. Day arrived. The darkness retreated like the tide. Lin Feng and the rest set off once again. They continued to search for the patrol immortal residence. After searching 5 places, they still did not find anything. Instead, they were in danger. Finally, when they found the 6th place, that blood-stained armor actually vibrated violently. Found it. It's nearby. Lin Feng and the great Taoist priest's eyes twinkled. Everyone else's eyes lit up as well. In the end, Lin Feng and the boundless Taoist priest looked at a chasm in the distance. They had a strong feeling. Patrol Immortal Residence. Chapter 36:18. That abyss was about 10 meters long. There was a cold aura emitting from the abyss. Lin Feng and the others arrived in front of the abyss. They looked towards the abyss and saw that it was pitch black. They couldn't see clearly what was going on inside, and they didn't know what terrifying things were inside the abyss. But presumably, such a place wasn't safe. We need to go down and take a look, but such a place must be extremely dangerous. Everyone be careful. Lin Feng reminded. Everyone nodded. Then, the group of people flew carefully towards the abyss. A cold aura swept over. Everyone couldn't help but shiver. The cold aura that filled the abyss. Even Lin Feng couldn't help but feel a little creeped out. The others also had the same feeling. So everyone became more and more careful. The visibility in the abyss was extremely low, and this place could suppress a cultivator's divine sense. It was impossible to use divine sense to explore the surrounding situation. After everyone came here, it was as if they had lost the ability to explore the outside world. About halfway down, Lin Feng suddenly felt that something was wrong. An indescribable feeling swept through his heart. Everyone, be careful. Something seems to be approaching us. Wu Xiu said in a deep voice. As soon as he finished speaking, the densely packed black tentacles quickly wrapped around everyone. It was simply overwhelming. There were countless of them. Upon closer inspection, it wasn't a real black tentacle. It was actually a type of black vine. On those vines, they were covered with densely packed small thorns. Small thorns. They could easily pierce into a cultivator's body. And those small thorns obviously contained a highly toxic poison. When he saw the vines that covered the sky and covered the earth coming towards him, he was shocked. Everyone's expression couldn't help but change. If he were to be entangled by those vines, he would most likely end up dead. Everyone was very clear about this. But those vines had already entwined over. Now, everyone could only resist the vines' attack. Everyone took out their magic treasures and slashed at the vines. Lin Feng took out 3 stone swords and slashed at those vines. When the 3 stone swords slashed the vines one by one, the 3 stone swords slashed the vines. Clanging sounds of collisions could be heard. That kind of collision sound. It was simply deafening. Lin Feng was shocked. Even the stone sword was unable to sever these vines. Aren't these vines a little too scary? What made Lin Feng extremely puzzled was, shouldn't these vines be vegetation? Why? Just now, when the stone sword slashed the vines, there was a sound of metal colliding. This point, Lin Feng was puzzled. The rest of the people were obviously unable to pose any threat to these vines. One of the cultivators was entangled by vines. Ah! The cultivator screamed in agony. A terrifying scene unfolded. The cultivator's flesh, blood, and soul were instantly devoured by the vines. All that was left was a skeleton with traces of blood. As for the skeleton, it was thrown to the bottom of the abyss by the vines. One had to know. These young experts of the Immortal God Alliance were the top experts of the younger generation. All of them were powerful. In the future, they would all become overlords. But now, that young cultivator had died tragically under the attack of the vines. From this, one could tell how terrifying these vines were. Now, everyone had a creepy feeling in their hearts, because they could feel the threat of death from these vines. If they couldn't think of a way to get rid of these vines, when the time came, even they would most likely perish here. Lin Feng took out the heaven fire. He wanted to use the heaven fire to deal with these creepy vines. But this time, Lin Feng failed, because these vines weren't vegetation-type vines. They seemed to be made of metal. So, Lin Feng's heaven fire couldn't hurt these vines. The rest of the people obviously recognized the heaven fire. So when they saw that Lin Feng's heaven fire couldn't do any harm to the vines, everyone's expression became extremely unsightly. Could it be, would they really die under the attack of the vines? At this moment, Ice Lake Snow gritted her teeth. She seemed to have made a difficult decision. Ice Lake Snow took out an item. It was an Imperial Edict. The Imperial Edict was surrounded by immortal light. It gave off an intense vibration and immortal light. No one knew who wrote the Imperial Edict. It was extremely sacred. That Imperial Edict was obviously one of Ice Lake Snow's treasures. Magic treasures, like Imperial Edicts, were usually forbidden weapons. They had a lifespan. After a certain number of uses, the Imperial Edict would be destroyed. Ice Lake Snow's Imperial Edict could be used 2 more times. Under normal circumstances, Ice Lake Snow couldn't bear to use the Imperial Edict, because it was something she could use to save her life. But now, Ice Lake Snow had no choice but to use the Imperial Edict, because of the current situation. It had reached a point where it couldn't be delayed. Ice Lake Snow's magic power entered the Imperial Edict, and it was successfully activated. In an instant, boundless sacred light surged from the Imperial Edict. The Imperial Edict suddenly became sacred. In the boundless sacred light, an ancient being appeared. That being was wearing a royal robe and a crown, just like the ancient divine emperor. Light descends, dispel the darkness. The ancient being spoke. His voice was extremely loud and clear. It was as though a bell had rung. When the ancient being's voice fell, Yi Zichen's eyes lit up. In an instant, boundless sacred light. It shone on the world. When the sacred power shone down and came into contact with the vines let out a chi, 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 chi sound. That was the sacred power. It caused a lot of damage to the invulnerable vines, the vines that were attacking Lin Feng, and the others quickly retracted. "Let's go," Ice Lake Snow said in a low voice. No one dared to hesitate. They all sped up and charged towards the bottom of the abyss. When they reached the bottom of the abyss, Ice Lake Snow kept the Imperial Edict. Lin Feng noticed that there were already 9 cracks on Han Jiangshue's letter. He guessed. Every time the Imperial Edict was used, there would be a crack. So many corpses. Someone said. Lin Feng retracted his consciousness and looked towards the bottom of the abyss. He saw a huge pile of corpses at the bottom of the abyss. The densely packed corpses were probably the creatures that had been killed by the terrifying vines. Chapter 36:19. These skeletons were the skeletons of cultivators, as well as the skeletons of vicious beasts. Lin Feng and the others had already seen how terrifying those vines were. It was estimated any creature that came to this abyss or flew over it would probably be attacked by those vines. Those vines were indeed powerful. They had both offense and defense, and they had almost no weaknesses. Now that he thought about how terrifying those vines were, Lin Feng still felt a lingering fear. It should be the devil's vine. According to the legends, it's an extremely rare metal vine. Immeasurable Taoist said, "Metal vine? There are such vines?" Lin Feng asked in surprise. Vines. Usually, they referred to vegetation. The term metal vines sounded unimaginable. Could it be a magic treasure? It's just that it's been made into a vine. Zhonglei said. Everyone looked at Immeasurable Taoist. Everyone was looking forward to the answer. Immeasurable Taoist said, "It's not a magic treasure. It's a vine with life. The creator is incomparably mysterious. Since he could create the stone race, he could naturally create other special races. For example, this devil's vine. This devil's vine is an incomparably strange vine. It's said that it's a vine born from a metal or called the devil's stone. This vine is extremely terrifying. Because it's made of metal, its defensive power is incomparably strong. Moreover, its attack power is extremely terrifying. It's almost impossible to find any weakness. Once targeted by such a vine, it would be disastrous." Just now, it was fortunate that Han Xianzi took out the Imperial Edict and neutralized the Devil's Vine's attack. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. After hearing Immeasurable Taoist's words, everyone finally knew what that powerful vine was. Everyone couldn't help but reveal a relieved expression. It was too dangerous before. But fortunately, now, everyone had resolved the crisis without any mishap. "Let's go and take a look," Lin Feng said. He took the lead and walked towards the depths. He held the blood-stained armor in his hand. Now, the blood-stained armor was vibrating violently. It seemed to be telling Lin Feng and the others that the wandering immortal mansion was not far away. Everyone was still very careful because they didn't know if there were other dangers in the abyss. Fortunately, there were no mishaps along the way. In the end, Lin Feng and the others arrived at the deepest part of the abyss. A huge cave residence appeared in their line of sight. There were 4 ancient characters written on the cave abode. These were 4 large words written in ancient divine characters. The meaning of those words was patrolling immortal abode. Found it. We really found the wandering immortal abode. Many people couldn't help but reveal excited expressions. After going through untold hardships, they finally found this immortal mansion. Moreover, they even lost a person in the team. Everyone had narrowly escaped death. It was not easy to find the wandering immortal abode. Just as Lin Feng and the others were about to enter the wandering immortal mansion, whoosh, 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 the sound of something piercing through the air could be heard as over 30 cultivators quickly flew over. Ha 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 ha. I never thought that a group of juniors like you would actually be able to find a place like the wandering immortal mansion. This is truly a surprise to me. A loud laugh could be heard. The one who laughed was a middle-aged cultivator. This middle-aged cultivator's aura was extremely powerful. This person was actually an emperor-level expert, Golden Sacred Lion race, Emperor Yenshan. After seeing this cultivator, Wu Xiu, Ice Lake Snow, and the others' expressions turned ugly. Clearly, they knew this cultivator. Lin Feng didn't know this person. The main reason was that Lin Feng had just arrived at the Heavenly Sage Great World not long ago. Therefore, he didn't know much about the experts of the Heavenly Sage Great World. Moreover, there were so many races in the Heavenly Sage Great World. Even if he wanted to know about the experts of the various races, it wasn't something that could be done in a day. He needed time. However, Lin Feng was already quite familiar with the Golden Sacred Lion race. This race was one of the royal races of the myriad races, one of the core forces of the Sacred War Alliance. This race was extremely powerful. Previously, Wu Liang Daoist was discovered when he went to excavate the ancient tomb of this race's ancestor. He was almost killed by an expert of this race. At that time, Wu Liang Daoist was chased to the point where he had nowhere to go. Fortunately, Wu Liang Daoist's methods were extraordinary, or else he would have died without a burial ground. Lin Feng realized that Wu Liang Daoist's face was almost green with fear when he saw the sovereign realm expert of the Golden Sacred Lion race. Clearly, Wu Liang Daoist knew this person. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter in his heart. Could it be, was this person the one who chased after Wu Liang Daoist? Perhaps it was possible, other than the sovereign realm expert, Huang Yanshan. There were also some experts. In this group. There were 2 Emperor Sects and 4 Emperor Realm experts. The rest were basically boundary emperors. They were probably brought out by these experts to train. For the sake of your race's elders, I'll spare your lives today. Leave quickly. However, this brat and this wicked Taoist cannot leave. Huang Yanshan said with an indifferent expression. The cultivation world of the Heavenly Sage Great World was the same as the cultivation world of the 9 states. Generally, these middle generation experts or the older generation experts were forbidden from attacking the younger generation cultivators. If they did so, the younger generation cultivators of the major forces would have to hide in their clans and not come out. Otherwise, they would definitely die. Under normal circumstances, no one would violate these rules. Occasionally, there would be people who violated these rules, but they had to do it cleanly and not leave any evidence. If they really left evidence, they would probably die without a burial ground. Huang Yanshan was very clear about this. so he didn't plan to attack these young cultivators of the Immortal Gods Alliance. However, Lin Feng and Wu Liang Daoist were different. Lin Feng and Wu Liang Daoist were both cultivators of the 9 states. Killing Lin Feng and Wu Liang Daoist, Huang Yanshan naturally had no scruples. He didn't need to worry about revenge at all. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. He didn't know what the group of people of the Immortal Gods Alliance would choose. However, Lin Feng had the ruler's armor. He didn't fear Huang Yanshan at all. Moreover, Lin Feng noticed this Huang Yanshan was very powerful. However, his realm seemed to be at the early stage of the sovereign realm. In other words, this person was powerful. However, he wasn't powerful enough to make people despair. Moreover, once Lin Feng activated the ruler's armor, coupled with Lin Feng's great destiny technique, there might be a chance to kill this person. Seeing that the people of the Immortal Gods Alliance had not left, Huang Yanshan's expression darkened slightly. Then, Chapter 36:20. Lin Feng wasn't sure about Wu Xiu, Wu Yuehan, Ice Lake Snow, Zhang Lei, Lu Haoren, and the others' attitudes. After all, they hadn't known each other for long. If they stayed, it would mean that they would fight Huang Yanshan and the others to the death. Leaving now seemed to be the best choice. If those people had left, Lin Feng wouldn't have cared either way. At most, he would pretend that he didn't know these people. To Lin Feng's relief, Wu Xiu and the others didn't seem to have any intention of leaving. Wu Xiu sneered. "Do you really think we're afraid of you? Even if we join forces, we might not lose to you." Wu Yuehan said, "That's right. If we really fight, it's hard to say who will win. Let's fight. None of us from the Alliance of Immortal Gods are cowards. Moreover, you want us to abandon Brother Lin and Taoist Wu Liang? Do you think that all of us from the Alliance of Immortal Gods are the same as you? Do you think that we would do something so treacherous?" Lu Haoren sneered. The group expressed their stance one after another. They wouldn't back down. They would rather fight with the cultivators of the Sacred War Alliance. Even if the Sacred War Alliance had an Emperor-level expert, Huang Yanshan, they weren't afraid of fighting. As the saying goes, newborn calves aren't afraid of tigers. The cultivators of the Immortal Gods Alliance were the top figures of the younger generation. Naturally, they wouldn't leave just because of a few threats. If they really left like this, their Tao heart would be greatly damaged. When the time came, the speed of their cultivation progress would definitely be greatly reduced. Their cultivation career would be greatly affected. "Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." Huang Yanshan glanced coldly at the cultivators of the Immortal Gods Alliance. His heart was filled with killing intent. "Brother Huang Yanshan, isn't it a little inappropriate to kill these people?" An emperor-level expert said. Between his brows, he looked worried. Obviously, this cultivator was worried that if these young geniuses of the Immortal Gods Alliance were killed, once this matter was spread out, even if they were emperor-level cultivators, they would be doomed eternally, because the other party might send someone even stronger to kill them. It was not as if such a thing had never happened in the world of cultivators. Huang Yanshan said, "Brother Nalen, don't worry. After killing these people, as long as we clean up the mess, I guarantee that there won't be any evidence left. Moreover, this is the Fate Swamp, a place of death. It's different from the outside world. Those people from the Alliance of Immortals won't be able to find anything even if they want to." After hearing Huang Yanshan's words, the rest of the people nodded. Since the situation had developed to this point, this battle was unavoidable. A bunch of reckless fools. "Today, I'll send all of you to hell." Huang Yanshan walked towards Lin Feng, and the others step by step. A terrifying aura emanated from his body. That aura was simply too overbearing. As expected of an Emperor Realm Master, he was indeed very powerful. Attack! Huang Yenshan shouted and took the initiative to attack. He condensed a powerful divine ability and blasted it towards Lin Feng and the others. Next, as for the other two great emperor sects, the four great emperor realm experts also led the cultivators they brought with them to attack. All sorts of powerful divine abilities gathered together. It transformed into a long river of divine abilities. It quickly engulfed them. Lin Feng and the others also made their move. Each of them condensed a powerful divine ability. The divine ability they condensed also turned into a dazzling long river of divine abilities. That long river of divine abilities emitted waves of violent fluctuations. That kind of fluctuation shook the void. Its power was extremely terrifying and shocking. The long river of divine abilities condensed by both sides instantly collided in midair. Bang! 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 Every time they collided, an earth-shattering sound would be produced. The two long rivers of divine abilities collided. It shattered the surrounding void. After more than 10 consecutive collisions, the long river of divine abilities condensed by Lin Feng, and the others gradually couldn't hold on anymore. After all, the other party had an Emperor Realm expert. The faces of the cultivators on Lin Feng's side became gloomy. An Emperor Realm expert, especially an Emperor Realm expert, who walked out of the myriad tribe's royal family. It was indeed not easy to deal with. This point, the geniuses of the Immortal God Alliance also realized, if we really can't defeat these people, we'll break out of the encirclement. Wu Xiu said in a deep voice. Naturally, everyone was unwilling to give up the opportunity inside. But the reality was that they had to face breaking out of the encirclement. It was better than being chased out. Although they would leave this place and give the opportunity to Huang Yenshan and the others, at the very least, the latter way of leaving, it was a dignified departure. There's no need to leave. I'll deal with Huang Yenshan. At this moment, Lin Feng spoke. What? Brother Lin will deal with him? Wu Xiu exclaimed. Although Huang Yenshan's cultivation is only at the first heaven of the Emperor Realm, he's still an Emperor Realm expert. Lin Gongzi has a way to deal with an expert like Huang Yenshan. Wu Yiwehan looked at Lin Feng in shock. Just now, Lin Feng didn't seem to show too much battle strength when he made his move. So now, Lin Feng said that he would take care of such a powerful person like Huang Yenshan. It was really shocking and moving. Lin Feng said, "It's just a mere Huang Yenshan. It's no big deal." As soon as Lin Feng said this, the group of people was dumbfounded, because Lin Feng's words were too arrogant. That was an Emperor Realm expert. Not a big deal. Even among the royal families of the 10,000 races, an Emperor Realm expert was a top expert and an existence with great power. But with Lin Feng, it was actually not worth mentioning. Huang Yenshan obviously heard Lin Feng's words as well. His eyes immediately revealed a sinister expression. He said coldly, "Brat, all these years I've seen all kinds of people, but it's the first time I've seen someone who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth like you. Later, I won't kill you directly. Instead, I'll torture you until you're better off dead. Then I'll extract your soul and put it into a demonic treasure that I've refined. I'll let your soul be bound by the demonic treasure forever and never reincarnate." Lin Feng said mockingly, "A mere first-level Emperor Realm expert dares to be so arrogant. If I show my strength, who do you think you are?" Arrogant. He was really too arrogant. Huang Yenshan was so angry by Lin Feng's arrogant words that his entire body trembled. He wanted nothing more than to kill Lin Feng right now. The two sides' divine powers collided 3 more times. The divine powers condensed by Lin Feng and the others were broken. The divine powers condensed by Huang Yanshan and the others continued to attack Lin Feng and the others. Huang Yanshan himself stood in the divine powers Long River and walked over. Chapter 36:21. You guys resolve the Long River of supernatural powers and deal with the rest. Leave this Huang Yanshan to me. Lin Feng couldn't help but let out a long howl. Then he walked towards Huang Yanshan. Now, fighting with emperors and emperor-level cultivators couldn't arouse Lin Feng's excitement anymore. Only fighting with emperor-level experts. Only then could Lin Feng be excited. Swoosh! The Dominator's armor awakened and instantly covered Lin Feng's body completely in the armor. The current Dominator's armor. It had completely become a part of Lin Feng's body. It was closely connected to Lin Feng, just like his arm, just like any part of his body. It was intertwined with Lin Feng's fate. When the Dominator's armor covered his body, an unimaginably powerful and terrifying power instantly surged into Lin Feng's body from the Dominator's armor. Currently, Lin Feng was still unable to truly activate the Dominator's armor. This was because Lin Feng's realm had yet to increase. If he reached the higher level of the Emperor realm, at that time, he would be able to completely control the Dominator's armor. However, even if he could only obtain a portion of the Dominator's armor's power, it was already enough for Lin Feng, because the Dominator's armor was too powerful. In addition, Lin Feng's own combat strength was also extremely terrifying. So, now that Lin Feng had activated the Dominator's armor, his combat strength had soared to a level that shocked even him. Boom! Lin Feng made his move. Surging mana wrapped around his fist. He threw a punch at Huang Yanshan. Bang! It was as if 2 planets had collided, with the location where Lin Feng and Huang Yanshan collided as the center. Dense cracks actually appeared in the void. Those cracks emitted a powerful space-time power. Lin Feng and Huang Yanshan's attacks directly shattered the void. Oh my God! Brother Lin actually blocked Huang Yanshan's attack. Brother Lin is already able to contend with Emperor-level experts. The cultivators from the Immortal God Alliance couldn't help but exclaim. An expert like Wu Xiu was already a top expert among the younger generation of the Immortal God Alliance. In the entire Immortal God Alliance, there were not many experts at his level. However, Wu Xiu's battle prowess was basically only able to contend against those in the Emperor Ancestor realm. It would be difficult for him to contend against a venerable emperor. But now, Lin Feng did it. What a strong man! Ice Lake Snow was shocked. She licked her red lips. Her beautiful eyes were overflowing with light. No one knew what he was thinking. Wu Weihan, on the other hand, had an outstanding temperament and a tall figure. He looked at Lin Feng with a strange light in his eyes. For example, Han Jiangxue and Wu Weihan, who came from extraordinary backgrounds and were as beautiful as fairies, in addition to their great talents and high cultivation bases. There were very few men who could enter their eyes. There were very few men who could make them look at them more than once, not to mention arousing their interest. But obviously, today, when they saw Lin Feng, they were shocked. Both Han Jiangxue and Wu Weihan were very curious about Lin Feng. Once a woman was curious about another man. That was when she fell for him. This armor is not bad. Your combat strength was raised by this armor. If not for this armor, I could kill you with a flick of my finger. Huang Yanshan said with a cold smile. He wanted to use words to attack Lin Feng, but Lin Feng looked at Huang Yanshan mockingly. He smiled coldly and said, against a Zundi cultivator. If you're not strong enough, how could you defeat such a strong cultivator? Dharma treasures are only auxiliary. The most important thing is the combat strength of the cultivator. Moreover, Dharma treasures and cultivators are an inseparable part. Dharma treasures are like an extension of the cultivator's body. No cultivator can live without Dharma treasures. Otherwise, why would they refine their natal Dharma treasures? You have cultivated for millions of years. Don't you know this? Now, you actually dare to say that if I didn't have this armor, you could pinch me to death with just a flick of your finger. Using ignorant and stupid to describe you is an insult to these two adjectives. Lin Feng was very good at talking. Any cultivator who argued with Lin Feng would be defeated in the end. Huang Yanshan was obviously the same. After hearing Lin Feng's mocking words, Huang Yanshan was so angry that he almost died. He glared at Lin Feng fiercely. His eyes flashed with a murderous intent. "Kid, you won't be able to show off for long." Huang Yanshan's voice was cold. As soon as he finished speaking, Huang Yanshan began to condense his divine ability to deal with Lin Feng. Huang Yanshan condensed a blood-red world. Rumbling sounds could be heard from the blood-red world. Smoke and dust were everywhere. A dense army riding on terrifying exotic beasts was charging over at high speed. The living beings of the blood-red army were all wearing blood-red armor. They seemed to have just returned from an unknown battlefield. Terrifying blood chi and murderous intent shook the void. It was as if the entire world was going to be destroyed. "Mighty frenzied blood army, please descend to the world and destroy the source of evil. Return the world to a clear and bright world." Huang Yanshan's voice was filled with bone-chilling coldness and murderous intent. As the sound of his incantation faded away, the huge blood-red army was about to rush out of the blood-red world. The aura emitted by the blood-red army was so terrifying that it made one's soul tremble. The sky prides of the Immortal God Alliance, who were fighting against the River of Divine Abilities, felt the terrifying aura emitted by the blood-red army. Their expressions changed abruptly. The blood-red army was just too terrifying. This was the battle strength of an emperor-level expert. It was really too powerful. The people of the Immortal God Alliance couldn't help but worry for Lin Feng. They didn't know if Lin Feng could withstand Huang Yanshan's attack. Perhaps the only person who wasn't worried about Lin Feng was Wu Liang Taoist. This was because Wu Liang Taoist knew how powerful Lin Feng was. Faced with the blood-red army's attack, Lin Feng stepped forward in the void. "I have a great wish. I wish that there would be no more wars in this world." Lin Feng began to chant the incantation for the Great Wish Technique. The Great Wish Technique was one of the most mysterious divine abilities among the 3,000 great Das. Now, Lin Feng used this divine ability to fight against the blood-red army. The Great Wish Technique was activated. A mysterious force surged out from the void. That force, it crashed into the blood-red world. Crack, crack. The blood-red world began to crumble. Before the blood-red army could rush out of the blood-red world, the blood-red world had already crumbled. At this moment, Lin Feng had already arrived in front of Huang Yanshan. 6 times the strength of the dragon elephant was activated. He threw a punch at Huang Yanshan. Huang Yanshan's expression changed abruptly. He hurriedly threw a punch to block Lin Feng's attack. Bang! Following a violent collision, Huang Yanshan was sent flying by Lin Feng. Crack, crack! The arm that collided with Lin Feng's attack. It broke. Chapter 36:22. Close combat. Lin Feng was simply invincible. The power of the arm of the dragon elephant was unimaginable. My arm! My arm! Huang Yanshan roared in pain. Aside from the heart-wrenching pain, Huang Yanshan's heart was filled with rage. At the same time, he felt extremely aggrieved. He was a venerable sovereign, yet he was defeated by a junior like Lin Feng. He only used one punch to break one of the arms. This was simply a great humiliation. Huang Yanshan, he could not accept what had happened. This humiliation. It made him feel like he was going crazy. Huang Yanshan has lost an arm. Oh my God, isn't Brother Lin a human? How can his physical body be so strong? Isn't this too crazy? Yeah, this is unbelievable. I can't believe it. I've heard that Brother Lin's physical body is strong, but I didn't expect it to be this strong. When the people from the Alliance of Immortals saw Lin Feng break Huang Yanshan's arm with just one punch, they were excited and shocked. They were excited because Huang Yanshan was injured, and the scales of victory were beginning to tilt towards their side. They were shocked because Lin Feng's physical body was too terrifying. It was so strong that it was unbelievable. To fight with Lin Feng, who had a heaven-defying physical body, they could not fight. He absolutely could not engage in a physical battle. Otherwise, he would definitely be suppressed. You're too weak. Are you really a venerable sovereign cultivator with this little strength? Lin Feng could not help but mock. He was as fast as lightning and came in front of Huang Yanshan again. The arm of the dragon elephant exploded. A terrifying punch swept towards Huang Yanshan again. This time, facing Lin Feng's attack, an eye suddenly opened between Huang Yanshan's eyebrows. The Golden Saint Lion clan was very terrifying. This was because some of the cultivators in their clan would be born with a third eye. This eye, it had unimaginable power. The myths and legends mentioned how terrifying the third eye of the Golden Saint Lion clan was. Once this eye opened, it could easily destroy a great world. Of course, although Huang Yanshan also had a third eye, the power of his third eye was definitely not at such a terrifying level. But even if it didn't reach the level of destroying a great world, it was terrifying enough. The terrifying light beam instantly pierced through the void. It shot towards Lin Feng. After sensing the terrifying power contained in the beam of light that shot out from Huang Yanshan's third eye, Qin Wentian was shocked. Lin Feng's face involuntarily revealed a hair-raising expression. The power of that beam of light was simply too strong. Lin Feng didn't try to take the beam head-on. Instead, he quickly dodged. The beam of light almost brushed past Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng possessed the Eye of Origin, also known as the Heavenly Demon Snake Eye, but Lin Feng's Eye of Origin was cultivated later. They were different from the Golden Saint Lions, who were born with a third eye. The strength of the Golden Saint Lions' attack power depended on the level of their third eye's cultivation. The higher the level of their third eye's cultivation, then the more powerful it was. Lin Feng had mastered the Eye of Origin for a long time, but Lin Feng didn't specialize in the Eye of Origin. The Eye of Origin had always been a support. Lin Feng mainly cultivated the 3,000 Great Tao. Kid, to be able to force me to use the Eye of Destruction, even if you die, it's enough for you to die with glory. Huang Yanshan looked at Lin Feng with an indifferent expression. He was very confident in his third eye. He believed in the power of his third eye. Lin Feng looked at Huang Yanshan with an indifferent expression and said mockingly, "Do you really think that your Eye of Destruction is invincible? In my eyes, it's simply too weak to withstand a single blow." Lin Feng was as arrogant as ever. These words made Huang Yanshan feel great hatred in his heart. This was because Huang Yanshan really couldn't accept such contempt and humiliation from a young cultivator. It made him go crazy with hatred. Of course, Lin Feng wasn't really as unconcerned about Huang Yanshan's Eye of Destruction as he said. Huang Yanshan's Eye of Destruction was incomparably terrifying. The reason why Lin Feng said that the Eye of Destruction couldn't withstand a single blow was to deliberately provoke Huang Yanshan. Once a person was in a state of rage, they would often be unable to unleash their combat strength. Huang Yanshan was naturally the same. "Kid, I want you to wait for death in endless fear." Huang Yanshan's voice, filled with killing intent, suddenly resounded between heaven and earth. Beams of light shot out from his third eye one after another. Those beams of light were so terrifying that it made people turn pale with fright. Beams of light enveloped Lin Feng's body. They wanted to destroy Lin Feng's body. What a terrifying attack! This is the innate attack of the Golden Saint Lion clan. Among the Golden Saint Lion clan, there are very few cultivators who possess the third eye of destruction. This kind of eye can be continuously cultivated. Every time it rises to a higher level, its power will greatly increase. It's said that this eye itself has different grades. According to the innate talent, the awakened eye of destruction will also be different. The higher the level of the eye of destruction, the more powerful it will be. Although Huang Yanshan didn't awaken the most powerful eye of destruction, it's still terrifying enough. I wonder if Brother Lin can neutralize the attack of Huang Yanshan's Eye of Destruction. The cultivators of the Immortal God Alliance discussed animatedly. Now, the battle between Lin Feng and Huang Yanshan had reached a critical moment. Therefore, regardless of whether it was the cultivators of the Immortal God Alliance or the Sacred War Alliance, all of them stopped. They were no longer in the mood to continue fighting. All of their attention was attracted by the battle between Lin Feng and Huang Yanshan. After Huang Yanshan's attack was released, everyone saw Lin Feng began to chant again. That's the great path of destiny. A lowly creature actually dares to blaspheme the great path of destiny. Please bestow upon me the power of destiny. Let me punish these lowly creatures. Lin Feng walked in the void as he chanted the incantation to summon the power of destiny. Boom! Along with the violent fluctuations surging between heaven and earth, the power of destiny descended. The power of destiny was too terrifying. It directly shattered the terrifying light beam from Huang Yanshan's Eye of Destruction. Then a beam of power of destiny arrived in front of Huang Yanshan. It swept across Huang Yanshan's Eye of Destruction. Puffed. Huang Yanshan's Eye of Destruction was instantly pierced through. "Ah, my eye!" Huang Yanshan let out an incomparably shrill cry. His Eye of Destruction was completely destroyed. The power of destiny, it was impossible to resist. Huang Yanshan's Eye of Destruction could no longer be recovered. "Your life. I'll take it." At this moment, Lin Feng quickly rushed toward Huang Yanshan. He performed the supremacy of the 9 heavens and 10 earths technique. Then, he directly attacked Huang Yanshan. Huang Yanshan performed the 4 Dragon Seal divine ability to resist Lin Feng's terrifying attack. However, his divine ability was instantly destroyed. Bang! Huang Yanshan was killed by Lin Feng's supremacy of the 9 heavens and 10 earths technique. Huang Yanshan's physical body directly exploded. An Emperor-level expert. Chapter 36-23. Dead. Huang Yanshan was killed by Brother Lin. Oh my God, isn't Brother Lin too terrifying? The top geniuses of the Immortal God Alliance could not help but reveal a shocked expression. They could not believe what they had just seen. It was simply too shocking. Huang Yanshan was an Emperor Realm expert, but he was killed by Lin Feng just like that. It was truly inconceivable. However, all of this was happening right in front of their eyes. They had no choice but to believe it. The 2 beauties, Ice Lake Snow and Wu Yuehan, looked at Lin Feng in amazement. Now, they had a deeper understanding of Lin Feng. Even so, in their opinion, Lin Feng was still shrouded in a mysterious veil. They could not help but want to unveil Lin Feng's mysterious veil. Then, they could understand everything about Lin Feng. Huang Yanshan was killed. That kid is too terrifying. We can't stay here any longer. Let's go. An Emperor Grand Level expert shouted in a deep voice. Huang Yanshan's death had almost scared them out of their wits. No one dared to stay any longer. If they did, they were worried that they would follow in Huang Yanshan's footsteps. No one wanted to die. Naturally, these people did not want to die. The group of people quickly rushed outside, wanting to escape. At this moment, Lin Feng had already collected Huang Yanshan's origin energy and storage ring. He blocked the path of a group of people. Then he shouted, "What are you waiting for? Let's kill these people together." Everyone regained their senses and charged towards the cultivators of the Sacred War Alliance. "Do you really want to kill all of us? How about we both take a step back? We will never tell anyone about what happened today," an Emperor Realm expert said in a deep voice, his expression extremely ugly. "All cultivators of the Sacred War Alliance should be killed," Lin Feng said indifferently. He had no intention of letting the cultivators of the Sacred War Alliance go. Once they were let go, it was easy to imagine the thunderous revenge that would follow. At this time, a group of cultivators from the Immortal Gods Alliance and Immeasurable Taoist had arrived. Together with Lin Feng, they besieged the cultivators from the Sacred War Alliance. "Let's fight them to the death." The cultivators of the Sacred War Alliance all revealed ferocious expressions, their eyes flashing with dense killing intent. These people also began to fight with all their might. However, in the end, these people did not escape the fate of death. 2 Emperor sects, for Emperor Realm experts and the cultivators they brought out for training, totaled up to more than 30 people. Besieged by Lin Feng, Taoist Wu Liang, and the cultivators from the Immortal Gods Alliance, all of them perished. Shua. Light flashed. The ruler's armor retracted into his body. After everyone cleaned up the battlefield, then he entered the patrolling Immortal Mansion. After entering the patrolling Immortal Mansion, there was a very long passageway. A chilling and terrifying aura emanated from the tunnel. That gloomy and terrifying aura made the group of people involuntarily feel a chill in their hearts. "Be careful," Lin Feng reminded. Everyone nodded. At this moment, Lin Feng realized that Han Jiangshui and Wu Yuan both came to his side, leaning closer to him. Moreover, the 2 of them would occasionally look at Lin Feng. Lin Feng had already noticed their strange actions, but Lin Feng did not take it to heart. Soon, the group of people entered a cave. This cave was extremely huge. In the middle of the cave, there was actually a golden wall. This golden wall was about 10 meters long, 6 to 7 meters tall, and 1 meter wide. Such a strange wall appeared in the patrolling Immortal Mansion. Everyone couldn't help but reveal a puzzled expression. What was the origin of this wall? Could it have been left behind by the patrolling Immortal? Let's see if there are any treasures first. Wu Xiu said. Everyone spread out to look for treasures, but to no avail. Many people's expressions instantly turned ugly. They had spent so much effort to find the patrolling Immortal Mansion, but there was nothing here. Anyone who encountered such a situation would feel depressed. Taoist Wu Liang looked at the golden wall. Lin Feng also found nothing after searching for a while. He saw Taoist Wu Liang looking at the golden wall, so he walked up to him. Then he asked, "Did you find anything?" Taoist Wu Liang said, "I feel that this wall is a little strange." "Strange wall? What's strange about it?" A genius from the Alliance of Immortals asked after hearing Taoist Wu Liang's words. The others also walked over and looked at Taoist Wu Liang. Now, no one had discovered anything in the patrolling immortal mansion. All their hopes were pinned on this strange-looking wall. Taoist Wu Liang said, "This feeling is very special. I can't pinpoint exactly what's strange about this wall. Perhaps we can break it open and find something?" Everyone smiled bitterly after hearing Taoist Wu Liang's words. However, they could still consider Taoist Wu Liang's suggestion. "All right, let's break it open and see if there's really something inside." Everyone agreed to Taoist Wu Liang's suggestion. Taoist Wu Liang said, "Let me break open this wall." After this guy finished speaking, a light flashed in his hand, and a huge hammer appeared in Taoist Wu Liang's hand. Taoist Wu Liang grabbed the hammer. Then he directly picked up the hammer lun. He smashed it toward the golden wall, just as Taoist Wu Liang's hammer was about to hit the golden wall. But at this time, something happened that left everyone dumbfounded. The golden wall began to bend at an unimaginable angle. Then the golden wall suddenly became taut. Bang! The golden wall swept toward Taoist Wu Liang. Clang! A loud sound rang out. Taoist Wu Liang and his hammer were both sent flying. They were both sent flying by the golden wall. "Damn, this wall has become a spirit." Taoist Wu Liang cried out in alarm while he was still in midair. This damned Taoist Wu Liang. His methods were astonishing. That was why he wasn't injured even after being sent flying by the golden wall. Lin Feng and the others regained their senses and looked at the golden wall in disbelief. What's going on with this golden wall? Just now, it actually bent in such a big arc and even bounced immeasurable Taoist away. Isn't this too inconceivable? Lin Feng and the others quickly surrounded the golden wall to prevent it from escaping. Chapter 36:24. Disturbing my dreams. You're asking me what I am? I think you're looking for a beating. The golden wall actually took the initiative to speak. And this guy was quite arrogant. Taoist Wu Liang was furious. He was actually looked down upon by a wall. How could Taoist Wu Liang endure this anger? He sneered and said, "Heavenly Lord Wu Liang, your whole family. If this Taoist master doesn't show his might, do you really think I'm a sick cat?" Taoist Wu Liang leaped up. He instantly arrived in front of the golden wall. He swung his hammer again. He smashed it toward the golden wall. At this moment, the golden wall bent again. It was exactly the same as the previous time. The golden wall that had been bent slightly swept across. All of a sudden, a powerful force burst out. The golden wall collided with the hammer in Taoist Wu Liang's hand once again. Taoist Wu Liang was swept away by the golden wall as expected. This time, the web between Taoist Wu Liang's thumb and index finger was shattered, and blood immediately flowed out. Everyone was shocked. This golden wall was really too strange, and its strength was also incomparably terrifying. Everyone couldn't help but feel incomparably surprised. Now, many people felt that the opportunity in the patrolling immortal mansion might be this golden wall. Even if it wasn't this golden wall, the opportunity in the patrolling immortal mansion definitely had something to do with this golden wall. At this moment, the demon lord's voice resounded in Lin Feng's mind. "This is the Wall of Wishes. Rumor has it, a treasure that spread out from the Supreme Divine Court is said to be able to fulfill any wish of a cultivator." After hearing the demon lord's words, Lin Feng was shocked. The Wall of Wishes. There was actually such a thing. There were really a lot of treasures in the Supreme Celestial Court. Any random treasure possessed a heaven-defying ability. For example, this Wall of Wishes was like this. If this Wall of Wishes was really as the demon lord said, it could fulfill any wish of a cultivator. This kind of thing was enough to cause a bloody storm. Lin Feng asked through voice transmission, "Is the legend true? Can the Wall of Wishes really help a cultivator achieve all their wishes?" The demon lord said, "In my opinion, this kind of rumor is not true, and it's hard for people to believe that this kind of rumor is true. However, the Wall of Wishes should be able to help cultivators realize some wishes, but these wishes should have restrictions, and not some unrealistic wishes." The demon lord said that there were many unrealistic wishes. For example, if you wished for eternal life, the Wall of Wishes would definitely not be able to fulfill your wish. If your condition is to cultivate some powerful divine ability, you might be able to fulfill this wish. I don't believe that I can't smash this broken wall of yours today. Taoist Wu Liang shouted fiercely. This guy was rarely injured, but now he was actually injured. This angered the immeasurable Taoist. Lin Feng hurriedly stopped Taoist Wu Liang, telling him not to be impulsive. Only then did Taoist Wu Liang stop. Lin Feng then looked at the golden wall. "If I'm not mistaken, you should be the Wall of Wishes, right?" Wall of Wishes. What is this? The people from the Immortal God Alliance were puzzled. Only Taoist Wu Liang's eyes suddenly lit up when he heard the words Wall of Wishes. It was unknown if this guy had heard of some rumors about the Wall of Wishes. That's right. This lord is indeed the Wall of Wishes. I didn't expect that someone would actually recognize this lord. The Wall of Wishes said. Next, golden energy spread out from the Wall of Wishes, enveloping Lin Feng and the others. They didn't feel any hostility from the Wall of Wishes. Therefore, when a large amount of golden energy surged out from the Wall of Wishes, not a single person struggled. They were all enveloped by the golden energy. When they were completely submerged by the golden energy, Lin Feng suddenly realized everyone around him disappeared. The next moment, they arrived in a golden world. In that golden world, apart from Lin Feng, there was nothing else. Only the Wall of Wishes remained. The Wall of Wishes was right in front of Lin Feng. It was floating in midair. "Where are they?" Lin Feng asked. The Wall of Wishes said, "Just like you, they have been separated by me to a different place. I will now give you a chance. Make a wish in your heart, and I will help you fulfill it." The Wall of Wishes said, "Only one chance." Lin Feng asked. The Wall of Wishes said, "Of course. Could it be that you want to have a few more chances?" Lin Feng laughed awkwardly, then asked, "Can any wish be fulfilled?" "Of course." The Wall of Wishes replied. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown. He felt that the Wall of Wishes' words couldn't be trusted. His answer, it could stimulate a person's greed. Therefore, when he heard the Wall of Wishes' answer, many people might make wishes that seemed impossible to fulfill. The Wall of Wishes continued. "What are you waiting for? Tell me your wish. No matter what it is, this Lord will help you fulfill it." The Wall of Wishes' voice had a hint of gentle temptation. Lin Feng said, "I want some divine abilities." "Oh, you want some divine abilities? Are you an idiot? After seeing the Wall of Wishes, you actually only want some divine abilities? Is this how you waste such a heaven-defying opportunity?" The Wall of Wishes said with a hint of exasperation in its tone. It continued, "You can make some wishes that are more difficult to fulfill, such as making you become an emperor faster. Of course, a more difficult wish is also not a problem." Lin Feng shook his head, then said, "I can rely on myself to become an emperor. There's no need to make a wish. Moreover, I believe that I will definitely become an emperor." "Kid, it's not good to be too conceited. Who dares to say that they will definitely become an emperor? This lord has seen too many people who were full of confidence before breaking through, only to fail in the end." The Wall of Wishes said, "I'm different from them. I want to cultivate some divine abilities. You can impart those divine abilities to me." Lin Feng said, What divine abilities? The Wall of Wishes asked. 3,000 Great Tao. Lin Feng said, It's just 3,000 Great Tao. I can teach you all 9 of Pan Gu's ultimate arts. How about it? The Wall of Wishes continued. It began to tempt Lin Feng again. Pan Gu's 9 ultimate arts? Lin Feng was a little tempted, but he kept feeling that something was not right, because Lin Feng felt that the Wall of Wishes had been guiding him to make other wishes. So, among them, was there a trap? This was really hard to say. This guy could not be trusted. Lin Feng warned himself in his heart. Then Lin Feng continued, I don't need Pan Gu's divine abilities. I need 3,000 Great Tao. Chapter 36:25. Lin Feng actually heard a trace of anger in the voice of the Wall of Wishes. It was as if it was angry out of humiliation. The Wall of Wishes seemed to be extremely angry at Lin Feng for rejecting its proposal. There must be a reason for this abnormality. Why couldn't he stick to his own opinion and hope to obtain the 3,000 Great Taos? Why did this guy have to force him to listen to its suggestion? Lin Feng was puzzled. At this time, the Wall of Wishes continued. I'll give you one last chance. Listen to me, or you'll get nothing. Facing such a blatant threat from the Wall of Wishes, Lin Feng smiled faintly. He said, You probably don't have a way to drive me out. You're just bluffing. If you had a way to drive me out, why would you waste so much time talking? Just drive me out. The Wall of Wishes' voice changed slightly. It didn't expect that such a young cultivator like Lin Feng would be so meticulous. The Wall of Wishes couldn't help but be shocked. Lin Feng smiled and continued, I'm guessing that you should have to abide by some kind of agreement, and this agreement has bound you. You have no choice but to fulfill some of my wishes. And these wishes of mine are also very particular, because I can only make a wish once. If you can't fulfill this wish of mine, then you have the right to refuse to let me make another wish. There's one more point. The wishes I make are from my heart. I'm the one who makes them. I don't listen to your temptation and make a wish that you want me to make. So if I listen to your temptation and make a wish that you want me to make, when the time comes, the result will still be the same as the first situation. You have the right to refuse my second wish. Therefore, what I need to do now is to stick to my heart. I need the 3,000 Great Taos. I wonder if you can fulfill this wish of mine now. After hearing Lin Feng's analysis, the Wall of Wishes suddenly became silent. After a long while, That's right, it's just as you said. If you make a wish that I can't fulfill for you, or if you listen to my advice, you'll be driven out by me. Only by sticking to your heart can you get something from me. Of course, I can give you the 3,000 great ways, but you'll have to comprehend them yourself. You can stay here for 3 days. In these 3 days, you'll get as many of the 3,000 great ways as you can comprehend. After the voice of the Wall of Wishes faded away, the world around Lin Feng suddenly changed. The Wall of Wishes vanished without a trace. The world around him had turned into a desolate world. In this world, huge stars floated in the sky. Those huge stars were formed by the stars of the Abhijna star technique. Every divine power star was one of the 3,000 great Taos. 3 days was simply too short. But since this was the rule, Lin Feng had to abide by this rule. Now, Lin Feng had already cultivated 2,510 types of the 3,000 great ways. There were still 490 types of the 3,000 great ways. Lin Feng would be able to gather all 3,000 great ways. It was too difficult to gather all 3,000 types of the 3,000 great ways. But now Lin Feng saw hope. Lin Feng walked forward between the stars. Each of the 3,000 great ways vibrated with powerful fluctuations. If he had cultivated the 3,000 great ways, Lin Feng would be able to sense it. The divine ability stars formed by the 3,000 great ways and the divine ability formation formed by the 3,000 great ways in Lin Feng's dantian reflected each other. It was really amazing. Lin Feng arrived in front of a godly skill star. This divine ability star didn't have any connection with the divine ability formation formed by the 3,000 great ways in Lin Feng's dantian. So, Lin Feng hadn't cultivated the 3,000 great ways recorded in this divine ability star. Lin Feng hadn't cultivated them. If it was anyone else, it would definitely be extremely difficult to comprehend these 3,000 great ways. But for Lin Feng, it wasn't difficult to comprehend these 3,000 great ways. Firstly, it was because Lin Feng had mastered the true incantation of Lin, which could help him comprehend the Tao. Secondly, it was because Lin Feng had already cultivated 2,510 types of the 3,000 great ways. As the saying goes, practice makes perfect. Anything. He did it over and over again. Once he did it enough, when the time came, it would be easy. It was the same for comprehending the great ways. There was an extremely close connection between the various great ways. Through the true incantation of Lin, coupled with his own experience, comprehension, and so on. Comprehending these 3,000 great ways was a simple matter for Lin Feng. Time passed quickly. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lin Feng comprehended the 3,000 great ways with all his might. He didn't waste any time. He comprehended a total of 90 types of the 3,000 great ways. On average, he comprehended 30 types of the 3,000 great ways a day. Swoosh! There was a flash of light. Lin Feng felt as if the sky and earth were spinning. Then he returned to the cave abode. Other than Lin Feng, the others were also in the cave abode. It seemed that the dozen or so cultivators from the Immortal God Alliance had good temperaments. They resisted the temptation of the wall of greed and wishes in their hearts. That was why they could stay until now. If they didn't resist the temptation of the wall of greed and wishes in their hearts, they would have been expelled by the wall of wishes long ago. You've gotten what you want. You can leave now. The wall of wishes said. Lin Feng and the others looked as if they hadn't had enough. Especially Lin Feng. There were still 400 types of the 3,000 great ways to collect all the 3,000 great ways. If he was given a little more time, he would definitely be able to comprehend the remaining 400 types of the 3,000 great ways. But unfortunately, the wall of wishes, it didn't give Lin Feng any more time. Divine light surged out and enveloped Lin Feng and the others. There was a flash of light. Lin Feng and the others were sent out. The patrolling immortal abode has disappeared. Zhang Lei pointed at the place where the patrolling immortal abode was originally located and said, everyone looked over and found that the patrolling immortal abode had really disappeared. Could it be that the patrolling immortal abode isn't in the same place? Taoist Wu Yang couldn't help but mutter. Lin Feng and the others nodded. They thought so too. It was indeed possible. The group's harvest was obviously quite good. Everyone rushed out together, intending to leave this abyss. But at this moment, Lin Feng suddenly felt that something was wrong. The surroundings were too quiet. There seemed to be hidden killing intent. The situation doesn't seem right. Everyone, be careful, Lin Feng said in a deep voice. After hearing Lin Feng's words, the group of people who were still excited suddenly had a slight change in expression. And at this moment, soil in many places at the bottom of the abyss rolled out. Then the soil piled up into mounds. One terrifying creature after another crawled out from the mounds of earth. Chapter 36:26. Those creatures were very ugly. Their bodies were covered with black scales. Their bodies were like spiders, but they had scorpion-like tails. Their heads were like the heads of lizards. However, it was longer than a lizard's head. And their teeth were extremely sharp. Each monster was more than 10 meters tall. Some of the bigger monsters were even more than 20 meters tall. Lin Feng had never seen such creatures before. Even in the mountain and sea scripture, there were no records of such creatures. After all, there were too many kinds of creatures in the world. There were so many that it was unimaginable. There were so many creatures. The mountain and sea scripture naturally couldn't record every kind of creature. This was unrealistic. Over 100 of these strange creatures emerged from the ground. Then they surrounded Lin Feng and the others. These creatures emitted a sinister and terrifying aura. After feeling the aura emitted by these creatures, Lin Feng's heart couldn't help but tremble slightly. "What the hell is this?" A genius said with a solemn expression. "That genius." He felt the aura of death from those strange creatures. This feeling was extremely terrible. It made him upset and angry. "I don't know what it is, but everyone must be careful. These monsters are absolutely terrifying," Lin Feng said in a deep voice. Everyone nodded, although those strange creatures hadn't attacked them yet. However, Lin Feng and the others felt uneasy. They didn't dare to act rashly. Now, they could only hope that these terrifying creatures wouldn't attack them. But obviously, this hope was quickly dashed. Screech, the largest monster, let out a sharp and ear-piercing cry. The monster's cry seemed to be giving an order. When the monster's cry fell, suddenly, one by one, the terrifying monsters all pounced toward Lin Feng and the others. Lin Feng took out the black dragon sword. At the same time, he took out the ruler's armor. Lin Feng had a strong premonition. These monsters might be much more terrifying than he imagined. So, he had to go all out. He couldn't afford to be careless. Lin Feng had always trusted his intuition. It was the same this time. "Die!" Lin Feng shouted with the black dragon sword in his hand. Next, he swung his sword at the first monster that pounced at him. The monster's 8 claws were like 8 sharp spears. The first 2 claws were like sharp spears as they pierced towards Lin Feng. Clang! Clang! With 2 clanging sounds, Lin Feng's black dragon sword collided with the monster's spear-like claws. What surprised Lin Feng was that the black dragon sword, with its tyrannical power, was actually unable to cut off the monster's claws. This monster's claws were a little too hard. Just as the black dragon sword collided with the monster's 2 sharp claws, the monster's tail had already arrived behind Lin Feng without making a sound. At the end of the tail was a thick poisonous stinger. The poisonous stinger flickered with a blue luster. It was obvious that it contained highly toxic poison. The poisonous stinger at the end of the tail quickly stabbed towards Lin Feng. Clang! When the poisonous stinger stabbed towards him, it immediately stabbed on the Dominator's armor. A sound of metal clashing could be heard. The poisonous stinger, but it didn't break the defense of the Dominator's armor. Lin Feng grabbed the poisonous stinger and then used his left hand to throw the monster away. Bang, bang, bang. The monster that was thrown away by Lin Feng then knocked away the other monsters that were pouncing towards Lin Feng. However, not everyone was like Lin Feng, who was able to resolve the attacks of those terrifying monsters. There were 3 geniuses from the Immortal God Alliance who were unable to resolve the attacks of those monsters. Perhaps it was because they underestimated the enemy, or because those monsters were too powerful. No matter what the reason was, when they were unable to resolve the attacks of those monsters, their fate was already sealed. Puff, puff, puff. Along with the sound of 3 bodies being pierced, there was the sound of 3 bodies being pierced. The chests of the three geniuses were pierced by a poisonous stinger. The three geniuses from the Immortal God Alliance lowered their heads and looked at the poisonous stinger that pierced through their chests. Then they screamed in agony. Their screams were so mournful and filled with unwillingness. However, there was nothing they could do to change the situation. These monsters are too powerful. They can't be killed at all. Hurry up and break out, Lin Feng said in a deep voice. Just now, he used the black dragon sword to clash with the monster's sharp claws, but he couldn't destroy the monster's sharp claws. From this, one could see how terrifying these monsters were. And there were too many of them. If they stayed and continued to fight with these monsters, they would definitely not have a good ending. Now, only 3 of them had died. If this dragged on, who knew how many of them would die? Charge out! The group of people gritted their teeth. There were 9 people left in the group. Everyone attacked with all their might. No one held back. Slash! Lin Feng walked at the front. He held the black dragon sword with both hands and directly swung out an unparalleled sword. In an instant, 100-meter-long sword light condensed and directly swept towards the 30-odd monsters in front. The rest were responsible for dealing with the monsters on the left, right, and behind. Clang, clang, clang. A series of collision sounds were heard. The monsters in front were all sent flying by Lin Feng's black dragon sword. Wu Liang Daoist, Wu Xiu, Ice Lake Snow, and the others blocked the attacks of the other monsters. Hurry up! After tearing an opening, Lin Feng shouted in a deep voice. He took the lead and charged forward. Because after they entered the bottom of the abyss, they walked a long distance into the abyss. There was only one entrance to the abyss, which was the place protected by those terrifying vines. Lin Feng and the rest wanted to leave the abyss, so they had to return to that place. Then, they left the place protected by the vines. The rest followed closely behind Lin Feng and quickly rushed out. Screech! The terrifying monsters let out sharp screeches and quickly chased after Lin Feng and the rest. Those monsters were extremely fast, but fortunately Lin Feng and the rest were fast enough. They gradually pulled away from those monsters. However, just as everyone heaved a sigh of relief, a voice suddenly rang out. Something terrifying happened. Thick scorpion tails suddenly came out from the ground. A total of 9 scorpion tails came out. These 9 scorpion tails locked onto Lin Feng and the rest. At the end of these 9 scorpion tails was also a poisonous spike. 9 poisonous spikes. They came separately to attack. The 9 poisonous spikes were simply too fast. They instantly arrived in front of Lin Feng and the rest. Clang! That spike stabbed onto Lin Feng's body. Just like before, it was blocked by the ruler's armor. Wu Liang Daoist and the rest also took action to neutralize the attack of the poisonous spikes. However, there were 2 prodigies who were not so lucky. Pooh! Pooh! The sound of flesh being pierced. It rang out. Blood splattered everywhere, and screams of agony rang out. The 2 cultivators who had their hearts pierced by the poisonous spikes died, tragically. The next moment, Chapter 36:27, when Lin Feng and the others saw that gigantic monster, they couldn't help but shiver in fear. The monster that appeared in front of them was probably a king-level monster. It was extremely powerful. Now, there were only 7 people left on Lin Feng's side. They were Lin Feng himself, Taoist Wu Liang, Wu Xiu, Wu Yuehan, Zhang Lei, Lu Haoren, and Ice Lake Snow. The 7 of them were targeted by the terrifying monster. The poisonous stingers came at Lin Feng and the rest again. Everyone's face turned solemn. Everyone used their strongest skills to fight against the gigantic monster. Lin Feng held the black dragon sword and slashed at the poisonous stingers. Clang! It was as if he slashed at a peerless weapon. he couldn't kill the monster at all. The rest of them were in the same situation. Just as everyone was defending against the poisonous stingers, the monster suddenly spat out a gigantic spider web. The gigantic spider web seemed to cover the sky and cover the sun. It was like an inescapable net moving towards Lin Feng and the others. It was almost unavoidable. Many people's faces changed drastically. Heavenly fire. Go. At the critical moment, Lin Feng took out the black flame god-swallowing fire. The heavenly fire enveloped the spider web. In an instant, the spider webs that had been flying towards Lin Feng started burning. Lin Feng and the others retreated at full speed, creating some distance between them and that terrifying monster. The 7 of them quickly rushed out. But at this moment, the terrifying monster started chanting. After it finished chanting, the formation in the void intertwined and sealed the area. Oh no, we're trapped by the formation. What a powerful formation. It should be a formation that already existed here. When he saw the intertwined formation, Lin Feng's face changed drastically. The formation was very complicated. It wasn't easy to break the formation in a short period of time. If they were trapped here, the consequences might be disastrous. Help me block it for a while. I have a treasure here that might help us escape. Wu Yuehan said, Are we going to use that thing? Wu Xiu took a deep breath. Wu Yuehan nodded. She then took out a golden stone door and began to chant an incantation. The eyes of Lin Feng and the others lit up slightly. The 6 of them used all kinds of methods to fight against the terrifying existence. The immeasurable Taoist had all sorts of talismans and magic talismans. It was as if it had blotted out the sky and the earth. It directly exploded in the void, causing a destructive fluctuation. In addition, Lin Feng and the others attacked with all kinds of supreme treasures. Although the terrifying monster was incomparably powerful, it would be difficult for it to get close to Lin Feng and the others in a short period of time. And at this moment, Wu Yuehan finally activated the mysterious golden stone door. She saw that the mysterious golden stone door was rapidly expanding. Soon, it turned into a 10-meter-tall golden stone door. The golden stone door opened. Dazzling light surged out from behind the golden stone door. Get in quickly, Wu Yuehan shouted anxiously. She also seemed to be unable to activate the golden stone door for a long time. Let's go. No one dared to hesitate and rushed toward the golden stone door. Wu Yuehan only entered the golden stone door after everyone had entered. After entering the golden stone door, there was a golden passage. This golden passage seemed to be connected to the outside world. This golden stone door was really mysterious. No one knew what kind of treasure it was. Lin Feng and the others rushed forward quickly. But before the golden stone door closed, a huge scorpion tail flew in. The scorpion tail was as fast as lightning. It was a sharp, poisonous sting. It directly stabbed toward Wu Yuehan, who was at the back. Wu Yuehan's expression changed greatly. She wanted to avoid the poisonous sting, but she failed. Puff! The poisonous sting pierced Wu Yuehan's thigh. Wu Yuehan suddenly let out a muffled groan. Her body fell down uncontrollably. The scorpion tail wrapped around Wu Yuehan. It wanted to quickly drag Wu Yuehan into the abyss. Sister. Wu Xiu's expression changed greatly. He wanted to go and save Wu Yuehan. Although Wu Xiu's cultivation was not weak, it was impossible for him to save Wu Yuehan. It was an act of suicide. Hold, Brother Wu. You guys go first. I'll go and save Wu Yuehan, Lin Feng said. He quickly turned back. He rushed in front of the huge scorpion tail. Lin Feng mobilized the power of the ruler's armor. At the same time, he used the weapon mantra, raising the power of the Black Dragon sword to the extreme. Then, Lin Feng's sword moved towards the scorpion's tail. This was the strongest sword Lin Feng could unleash at the moment. Puff! When this sword slashed the scorpion tail was immediately cut off by Lin Feng. A large amount of poisonous blood spurted out. Lin Feng held the unconscious Wu Yuehan. Dodging the spurting poisonous blood, he quickly rushed outside. Wu Yuehan's beautiful face turned blue. Obviously, the poison was very deep. Lin Feng quickly used the 8 spirit-forbidding seals to seal Wu Yuehan's 8 extraordinary meridians and the blood flowing in her body. Usually, poison followed the blood flow through the 8 extraordinary meridians to various parts of the cultivator's body. Sealing Wu Yuehan's 8 extraordinary meridians, and her own blood could temporarily suppress Wu Yuehan's injury. At this moment, Taoist Wu Yang and the others had already rushed out. They did not know where the golden passage led to. Lin Feng held Wu Yuehan and stepped on the 8 directions world, pushing his speed to the extreme. It seemed that they were not far away from rushing out. But at this moment, a loud rumbling sound was heard. Huge spider claws penetrated the golden passage. Obviously, the terrifying monster went completely crazy after Lin Feng cut off its tail. After the golden passage was penetrated, it became extremely unstable, and many places began to collapse. A space-time storm swept over. Not good. The way out is destroyed. Lin Feng's expression suddenly changed. The next moment, the space-time storm swept over and instantly drowned Lin Feng and Wu Yuehan. The golden passage exploded. The spider claws that pierced through the golden passage all exploded. Between heaven and earth, calmness was restored. Shua! There was a flash of light. Lin Feng and Wu Yuehan fell from midair. This was a mountain range. It was night. Lin Feng was sure they were still in the Swamp of Destiny, because this place was still the unique aura of the Swamp of Destiny. Shua! Shua! Deep in the mountain range. A pair of cold eyes opened. Chapter 36:28. Wu Yuehan was still unconscious, and her body was burning hot. Obviously, the situation was not ideal. Now, such a terrifying existence had appeared beside her. Misfortune never came alone. Lin Feng sent Wu Yuehan into the mountain and river ring. At the same time, he ordered the white jade toad to help Wu Yuehan detoxify the poison in her body. With the help of the white jade toad, Lin Feng was not sure if the poison in Wu Yuehan's body could be completely removed. But at least he could be sure of one thing. Wu Yuehan's life was not in danger for the time being. Cultivators of the human race. The terrifying existence's voice seemed to have softened a little. Lin Feng was a little surprised. At first, his gaze was incomparably cold. After discovering that Lin Feng was a human cultivator, the bone-piercing chill lessened a lot. Lin Feng guessed in his heart, could that terrifying creature be a human, or did it have some relationship with the human race? If that was the case, the situation would be better. Because if it was a creature hostile to the human race or some savage and bloodthirsty creature, it would be a great threat to Lin Feng. After all, this was the Swamp of Destiny, where danger lurked everywhere. Here, there was a possibility of dying at any time. 9 Prefectures human cultivator, Lin Feng greets Senior. Lin Feng hurriedly introduced himself. 9 Prefectures, the mysterious existence muttered to himself. When he said the words 9 Prefectures, his voice trembled slightly. He stabilized his emotions and said, "How is the 9 Prefectures now?" A few years ago, the myriad races joined forces with some extraterrestrial forces to invade the 9 Prefectures. Fortunately, the crisis of the 9 Prefectures has been resolved. Lin Feng said. Lin Feng did not explain the process in detail. However, a huge force like the myriad races had joined forces with extraterrestrial forces to invade the 9 prefectures. One could imagine what kind of tragic war the 9 prefectures had experienced. Back then, it must have been the scene of the country being destroyed, right? The mysterious existence asked. Yes, countless forces were reduced to ashes. More than half of the mountains and rivers fell. Ancient immortal sects, aristocratic families, and sects were destroyed one after another. Fortunately, in the end, justice prevailed over evil. Lin Feng said. The mysterious existence asked, "How's the reincarnation immortal sect?" Lin Feng's expression suddenly changed. Reincarnation immortal sect. This mysterious being was asking about the reincarnation immortal sect. This really surprised Lin Feng. Who was he? Why did he ask about the reincarnation immortal sect? The reincarnation immortal sect is fine, but Lord Tortoise suffered a calamity and was taken away by an unknown and terrifying existence. Lin Feng said in a deep voice. What? The mysterious existence's voice suddenly changed. His emotions couldn't help but fluctuate violently. Lin Feng asked, "Senior, are you related to the reincarnation immortal sect?" "In the past, I was in charge of the reincarnation immortal sect." The mysterious existence said. "Take control of the reincarnation immortal sect." Lin Feng's eyes suddenly widened. The sovereign leaderboard from over 3,000 years ago, the sect leader of the reincarnation immortal sect, and the Red World Fairy had exchanged thousands of blows. He had defeated the Red World Fairy with a single move. The sect leader had left the reincarnation immortal sect more than 1,000 years ago. When Lin Feng joined the reincarnation immortal sect, he had never seen the sect leader. However, since the sect leader had lost to the Red World Fairy with a single move, it was clear how powerful the sect leader of the reincarnation immortal sect was. Lin Feng had heard Lord Tortoise mention the sect leader before. Lord Tortoise had said that the sect leader was the most talented person since the establishment of the reincarnation immortal sect. Even with Lord Tortoise's powerful cultivation base, he still held the sect leader in high regard. From this, one could see how terrifying the sect leader of the reincarnation immortal sect was. However, the reincarnation immortal sect had not received any news about the sect leader for many years. Ever since the sect leader had entered the extraterrestrial starry sky. At first, there was still some news that was sent back to the sect. Later, there was no news at all. Now, Lin Feng suspected that the sect leader of the reincarnation immortal sect was the sect leader. Very few people knew the name of the sect leader. In the entire reincarnation immortal sect, only a few people knew about it. However, Lin Feng had heard Lord Tortoise mention his name before. He seemed to be called Feng Wanxian. When Lin Feng heard the name, he was actually a little hesitant. The name Xian was a taboo in many cases. It could not be used casually, especially when there was a Wan in his name. Using the 2 words Wanxian, this was a huge taboo. However, since the sect leader dared to use this name, he must be extraordinary. That's right. I'm the sect leader of the reincarnation immortal sect, Feng Wanxian. Which sect are you from? Feng Wanxian asked. Disciple of Lord Tortoise of the reincarnation immortal sect, Lin Feng said. Feng Wanxian was shocked. He did not expect Lin Feng to be a disciple of the reincarnation immortal sect. The reincarnation immortal sect has a genius like you. Heaven is blessing the reincarnation immortal sect. Feng Wanxian exclaimed excitedly. Senior, why are you in the swamp of destiny? Are you in trouble right now? Lin Feng asked. At this moment, Feng Wanxian walked out from the depths of the swamp. His huge body was illusory. It was not a body of flesh and blood. After seeing Fang Wanxian's body, Lin Feng's expression changed drastically. My body is suppressed under the mountain range. This is a spiritual body that I condensed with my dermic powers and soul. Darkness erosion, I have to protect my physical body with my soul. Otherwise, once my physical body is destroyed, I'll be doomed eternally. However, in recent years, I've been getting weaker and weaker. Fang Wanxian sighed. At this moment, a terrifying aura filled the air. In the distance, endless darkness was devouring heaven and earth. Darkness erosion. Once again, it engulfed the entire swamp of destiny. Lin Feng knew how terrifying darkness erosion was. When he saw it, his expression changed drastically. Hide behind him, Fang Wanxian said in a deep voice. Lin Feng quickly ran behind Fang Wanxian. Endless darkness shrouded them. Between heaven and earth, there was an eerie and terrifying aura of death. That aura of death made Lin Feng feel extremely oppressed. He had a strange feeling. The darkness erosion here was different from the darkness erosion he had seen before. The darkness erosion that appeared here, it seemed to be more powerful. It was even more terrifying. Kingdom of 10,000 immortals. 10,000 immortals appear. When the darkness eroded the entire world, when the darkness was about to devour Fang Wanxian, and Lin Feng, Fang Wanxian stepped forward. His voice, it was sonorous and forceful. It was full of energy. A loud shout resounded between heaven and earth like the sound of Tao. Then, a mysterious kingdom appeared behind Fang Wanxian. That kingdom, it was surrounded by endless immortal light. Chapter 36:29. The kingdom of 10,000 immortals was one of the greatest forces in this era. How prosperous was the kingdom of 10,000 immortals in the past? It was so powerful that it was hard to believe. However, in the end, the kingdom of 10,000 immortals was destroyed. For countless people, the kingdom of 10,000 immortals was a myth, full of countless secrets. However, the kingdom of 10,000 immortals was destined to be ethereal and difficult to approach. Countless people wanted to explore the secrets of the kingdom of 10,000 immortals. But in the end, they couldn't find anything. A place like the kingdom of 10,000 immortals. It was destined not to be accessible to ordinary people. Lin Feng had already heard the rumors of the kingdom of 10,000 immortals. Now, Fang Wanxian, the sect leader of the Reincarnation Immortal sect, actually summoned the kingdom of 10,000 immortals. And the kingdom of 10,000 immortals, it even showed the 10,000 immortals phantom. It was really incredible. It was shocking and moving. Lin Feng felt that things were not so simple. He vaguely felt that there was a reason why the sect leader called him Fang Wanxian. He thought of the kingdom of 10,000 immortals. Was it that? Fang Wanxian. In fact, he had a close connection with the kingdom of 10,000 immortals that others didn't know. The more Lin Feng thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. From some things, he could see some clues. For example, the magical power that Fang Wanxian mastered was related to the kingdom of 10,000 immortals. Moreover, Lin Feng thought of the peak battle between Fang Wanxian and the Red World Fairy. Immortal Venerable Red Dust had long cultivated the 3,000 great Das. No one knew how terrifying it was. Fang Wanxian and the Red World Fairy fought for thousands of rounds and was defeated by one move. Then, how terrifying was Fang Wanxian's cultivation to be able to do this? Lin Feng even suspected, did Fang Wanxian get the orthodoxy of the kingdom of 10,000 immortals? Of course. These were Fang Wanxian's secrets. Everyone had their own secrets. Lin Feng wouldn't ask Fang Wanxian, This was the most basic principle of dealing with things. The 10,000 immortals, phantom 1,000 immortals, walked out of the kingdom of 10,000 immortals. They entered the darkness. They fought with the unknown existence in the darkness. The darkness kept corroding Feng, Wanxian, and Lin Feng's bodies. But Feng Wanxian's methods were extremely amazing. Finally, the darkness dispersed, and of the sky. Feng Wanxian's body became even more illusory. A night of exhaustion had almost exhausted him. "Are you still not done yet?" "You don't need to worry about me." When Feng Wanxian heard Lin Feng, he remained silent. Of times. Lin Feng frowned. He hadn't thought that things would be so serious. He did not doubt Feng Wanxian's words. After all, there was no need for Feng Wanxian to lie to Lin Feng. Lin Feng asked, "Senior, may I know how I can rescue you?" "My body is bound by the chains of destiny. I need to find the sword of destiny and sever the chains. Only then can you help me escape." Feng Wanxian said, "Sword of destiny? What's that?" Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter. Feng Wanxian said, "The sword of destiny is the sword of the master of destiny. Only the sword of destiny can sever the chains of destiny." After hearing Feng Wanxian's explanation, Lin Feng finally understood the origin of the sword of destiny. It seemed that the master of destiny didn't just forge the immortal bell of destiny. Lin Feng asked curiously, "Senior, may I know how you ended up trapped under the mountain range back then?" Feng Wanxian sighed. "It's a long story." He didn't answer Lin Feng's question directly. There was even a hint of sadness in her eyes when she said the words, "It's hard to explain." Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter inwardly. Back then, when Feng Wanxian was imprisoned here, he didn't show any hatred or anger. Instead, he showed a sad expression. What was going on? Could he have been schemed against by someone he knew? Only when one was plotted against by someone they knew, someone they thought they were close to, would they show such an expression. Of course, these were just Lin Feng's guesses. What exactly was the situation? Lin Feng didn't know for now. However, he felt that this matter was indeed not simple. Perhaps the truth was very close to his guesses. "Senior, do you know where the sword of destiny is?" Lin Feng asked. "I know, but that place is too dangerous. There are extremely terrifying creatures guarding it. If you enter it rashly, only death will await you. Not to mention you, even emperor lords or some itinerant immortals would not be able to return after entering that place." Feng Wanxian said, "What? That place is so dangerous?" Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. The place that Feng Wanxian mentioned was too terrifying. Lin Feng continued to ask, "Senior, is the place where the master of destiny died?" Feng Wanxian nodded and said, "That's right. That place is where the master of destiny died. There are too many terrifying creatures around it. It's a true forbidden area, the core of this land of death." Lin Feng finally understood why that place was so dangerous. It turned out that it was the core of the land of death. The core of any land of death was an incomparably dangerous place. No one dared to enter those places, because entering them was no different from courting death. Lin Feng had some understanding of the core of the land of death. It was said that the sleeping beings in the core area were all extremely ancient existences. Due to various reasons, they had no choice but to sleep in the core of the land of death. They hoped to extend their lifespan. Lin Feng said, "Maybe I can give it a try. I know you have good intentions, but that place is too dangerous. I won't tell you the exact location." "Senior, don't worry. I'm not acting recklessly. I have a stone armor on me that can block the detection of the terrifying creatures in the land of death. If I wear the stone armor and be careful, I think I should be able to sneak into the place where the Master of Destiny died. Lin Feng said, "Oh, there's such a stone armor?" Fang Wanxian couldn't help but be shocked. Lin Feng nodded. He said, "Senior, please tell this junior where that place is. This junior will definitely be more careful." Fang Wanxian was silent for a moment. Finally, he said, "All right, I can tell you the place. However, if you find something amiss, return immediately." "All right," Lin Feng replied. Chapter 30, 6:30. Lin Feng looked at the mountain peak, which wasn't too far away. It seemed that he was now in the depths of the swamp of destiny. Let's take advantage of the fact that the darkness erosion hasn't appeared in the morning. I'll go take a look at that place. Lin Feng said, "Don't be in a hurry. Wait until nighttime." Fang Wanxian said, "Nighttime?" Lin Feng was very confused. In his opinion, nighttime was the most dangerous time. The hope of deceiving the world was also the slimmest. Fang Wanxian explained, "Most of the creatures there are in deep slumber, and very few of them have awakened. Usually, when they wake up, they will choose to go out to look for food. However, they don't like to see the sun, so they will still stay there during the day. At nighttime, when the darkness erosion has occurred, they will come out. That's when the darkness erosion has occurred. That's when the darkness erosion has occurred." "I see." Lin Feng couldn't help but nod. Fang Wanxian then took out a jade talisman and handed it to Lin Feng. "If you leave that place at night, it will be very dangerous when the darkness erosion occurs. Take this jade talisman with you. It will protect your safety." "Thank you, Senior." Lin Feng took the jade talisman and thanked Fang Wanxian. "I should be the one thanking you. You should rest well. I also need to conserve my energy and prepare to deal with the darkness erosion tonight." Fang Wanxian said, "All right." Lin Feng nodded. They each found a place to rest. Lin Feng's divine will entered the mountain river ring and carefully checked Wu Yuehan's condition. Then Lin Feng frowned. Wu Yuehan was still unconscious. It seemed that the monster's poison was really too terrifying. Although the white jade toad had helped Wu Yuehan detoxify the poison, Wu Yuehan's condition was still very bad. The only thing worth rejoicing about was that Wu Yuehan's life was not in danger. After his divine Wu left the mountain river ring, Lin Feng began to adjust his breathing. The previous battle had been intense. Lin Feng had also consumed a lot of energy, so he took advantage of this opportunity to adjust himself to his best condition. Only then would they be able to better deal with the various dangers that were about to come. Time passed. Very soon, the sun was setting. Dusk arrived. Soon, darkness would envelop the land. Fang Wanxian opened his eyes and walked out. He looked at Lin Feng and said, "Go now before it gets dark. The darkness won't erode the mountain you're going to. When you get there, don't rush in. Find a place to hide and wait until midnight to enter." Junior will remember. Lin Feng cupped his fists and quickly left. A cold and gloomy aura filled the swamp. The outer regions of the mountain range were filled with swamps. It was impossible to walk on them, so they could only fly. From time to time, highly toxic marsh gas would be emitted. There were many terrifying, ferocious beasts and poisonous insects living in the swamp. This was something that the cultivators entering Fate Swamp had to be extra careful about. Of course, the most terrifying thing about Fate Swamp wasn't the various ferocious beasts or poisonous insects in the swamp. Instead, it was the dark erosion and some ancient existences that had awakened from their slumber. The dark erosion could devour life, and those ancient existences that had awakened from their slumber all had heaven-defying cultivation bases. No matter what kind of situation it was, once encountered, it would make one despair. Lin Feng quickly moved through the swamp. He had to increase his speed. He had to get to the mountain range before the darkness corroded his body. The dark erosion was too terrifying. Lin Feng had obtained the life-saving jade talisman from Fang Wanxian, but he still had to be cautious when dealing with the dark erosion, because Lin Feng was worried about the jade talisman. It couldn't completely resist the dark erosion. Lin Feng was very fast. Before the sky turned dark, he arrived outside the mountain range. Then Lin Feng took out the stone armor and put it on. The stone armor was very heavy and had a greenish-gray color. It was very similar to the color of many ordinary stones in the forest. But obviously, the stone armor had an extraordinary effect. After putting on the stone armor, Lin Feng entered the mountain range. There was a slightly lower mountain peak at the entrance of the mountain range. That mountain peak was like a fierce tiger. That ferocious tiger would jump up at any time and pounce forward. And the main peak not far away was shaped like a giant dragon. A dragon and a tiger, a place of great danger. Lin Feng frowned slightly, but he didn't pay too much attention to the terrain here. This was a place where a group of terrifying creatures slept, so it was naturally very dangerous. So there was nothing to be surprised about having such a dangerous terrain. Lin Feng entered the mountain range and found a hidden place. He hid in this place and waited for the darkness to come. Not long after, the darkness came, and a cold aura spread between heaven and earth. The dark erosion appeared. Just as Fang Wanxian said, the dark erosion didn't erode the Longhu mountain range where Lin Feng was. Maybe it was because this place should be the place where the ancient creatures of the Swamp of Destiny slept. A scorching flame flew from the depths. Looking carefully, one could see that there was a ferocious beast in the flame. It was a fire ape with 3 heads and 6 arms. The fire ape's aura was monstrous, although it didn't deliberately release its aura. And Lin Feng was more than 1,000 meters away from the fire ape. But Lin Feng still felt like he was suffocating under the pressure. That feeling was quite terrible. His breathing became slightly hurried. The fire ape was very sensitive. It was originally flying outside, but now the fire ape stopped and stood in the void, looking around. It seemed to be searching for Lin Feng's traces. Lin Feng was shocked. He just breathed a little more heavily, but the fire ape sensed it. Moreover, he had the stone armor to cover his aura, so it was difficult to really hide it. The fire ape was too terrifying. Lin Feng quickly stopped breathing and didn't dare to make any movements for fear of attracting the fire ape's attention. The fire ape searched for a while, but didn't find any movement, so it flew outside. Lin Feng didn't let out a long breath until the fire ape left. In the next period of time, 6 or 7 terrifying creatures walked out from the depths of the mountain range. Until late at night, no more creatures walked out from the depths of the mountain range. Lin Feng walked out of his hiding place. He took a deep breath. Carefully, he walked into the depths of the mountain range. Not long after, Lin Feng saw the huge cave residence in the depths of the mountain range.